You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, I guess I should say, what have I missed since I've been back from England? It seems like everything in Philadelphia has just been, sunny. It's always sunny in Philadelphia, I suppose. Or not. Well, it seems like a lot has went down since I last recorded my special edition episode of Ernestly Speaking, which was a few days ago. A lot of you all had questions about my Oxford Union debate, which was pretty damn epic. And if you want to know more about my trip in the UK, about the food, which has been buzzing in so many ways, I did see what Keith Lee had said about the full English breakfast. Sidebar, let me just say that, I don't think Keith Lee is like really a food critic. But I will say that his assessment on the food in the UK is pretty spot on. I told you all this, that the food is very flavorless outside of the diversity of folks who've been colonized over there, Indian cuisine, West African cuisine. I heard that people like the Caribbean food there. I can see that those who were ancestrally colonized by the UK, the British, right? That I could see how people, how folks could appreciate that food. But the traditional standard food there, the fish and chips, all that stuff, you already know my full-fledged thoughts. What I will say, though, is that Keith Lee had a full English breakfast at a hotel, and I looked at the food and the serving, and that's just really not a good interpretation of it. Not to say that he would probably like it either way, but I felt like what he had wasn't the best version of it. It's like getting a cheesesteak, at a spot that makes everything other than cheesesteaks. Now, unless you're Angelo's, where you can make great pizza and cheesesteaks and hoagies, that's an exception. But there's a lot of places that are like, oh, we got a cheesesteak on here, but we also got egg rolls, Chinese food, pizza, and everything. Like, you want to get a cheesesteak from a place like that, a good one for that matter. So I don't know if his interpretation of that was there, but he's been going to some other places, and he's really not feeling it. And I mean, he does have the appetite of like a 16-year-old that live in the Midwest, I argue. But it's a fair critique, because I would argue that the British appetite is pretty bland. I mean, they got to put salt and pepper on everything because they don't have the basic seasoned salt. All that colonization, all of that exploitation of land and jewels and spices, and yet no spices on the food. Like, what did you do with the spices? Did you put it all in the tea? Because I love a good turmeric tea, a good turmeric ginger tea. The British have great tea. Okay, I went through customs and brought back a lot of tea, some great chocolates, some other candies. Oh my gosh, these gummies from a place called Harbo. I think that's what they call them. Yeah, Harbo Gold Bears, which they do sell in the US, but they are my faves. They're addicting. I should have brought some for my producer at WRD because he loves them. But I don't think they're good for him, so I didn't get them for him. But I do have a big one for Mr. Johnson. But yeah, it was a great time. I'm still like, there. Part of me is there. Like, my intellect is there. Like, the world, it was just it was like a fantasy experience. And, I'm so happy that I did not talk about the trip on this episode, because clearly, is this what you all came here for? Is this what y'all came to see? Right? Like I have that Jalen Hurts line, all right, this is what y'all came here for? Like that, he had the flashy jewelry, and he just sat there and he was like, this is what y'all came to see? Like, this is where I feel, and I'm like, clearly, this episode would have been extremely, extremely long, right? And so I'm happy I put all of my thoughts on Oxford Union in the moment. I recorded it in, Oxford Union. I mean, not Oxford Union, in Oxford, near Oxford University. Like, I was right there, an old bank, hotel, and I recorded it there. And it was a memory, and I wanted to have that core memory in the moment. Like, I recorded my podcast across the Atlantic, and I wanted to do that. So it's there. In the moment, the excitement, the thrills were after the debate. You can listen to everything in that special edition episode. So many of you have already, and I loved all the nice messages and DMs and everything you've sent me. I truly appreciate it. So, yeah. So let's get the ground running. I mean, after that, I was on Piers Morgan Uncensored with Tommy Lauren, Neurotic, Piers Morgan himself, of course, and Jason Lee. Yes. The five of us was on a segment talking about just major things in pop culture that took place over the past couple of days. And the episode has gotten quite the views because everyone and their mother was looking at all of us. Like Piers Morgan put the most extreme of the most extreme personalities on one YouTube episode. And it did everything it was supposed to do. And interesting enough, you all peeped something else on that episode. At the beginning, before our segment, there is a debate between Dave Rubin and some other guy from London that was debating something around economics. That was the Dave Rubin that I debated at the Oxford Union. He was in the UK, clearly around the same time I was, and he did his segment with Piers Morgan. I did mine the day before, and he was in London, so it would have been interesting because the plan was, and so now I can tell you this because, but the plan was for me to do my segment in London with Piers Morgan, but Piers records his episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and he was not available on Thursday, and I did not take Wednesday off and come to London and things, because I could have done both possibly, but I didn't know my schedule. This all kind of happened really fast, so I recorded my episode in Philly and then there. But if I would have came Wednesday, Ruben and I would have seen each other before the debate. And I kind of am happy that it happened because, as I described in the last episode, being able to not see each other and then kind of hit the floor, it had a special effect. Like, he couldn't read me. I couldn't read him. I mean, the energy was just very neutral. And I would have liked that, because if I think we would have had too much mingling prior to the debate, it would have made my belt to ass, y'all, just belt to ass. It would have just made me feel like, oh, well, I got the, like, I don't want to know my opponent. I don't want to, not too much. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to come in and get the job done, and I got the job done. So, but that almost happened. And so Pierce and I could have met in person. We didn't get a chance to, the scheduling to work out. But I did do my big one. So, that was great. But we were on the show. The episode was quite the rouser. If you want to see it, the link in my bio. So if you follow me on X or Twitter, or if you follow me on Instagram, if you go to the link in my bio on my link tree, that clip is up. That video segment is up, so you can actually watch it and get your life. I won't get too much into moments on that show, but what I will say is that, of course, there was one particular thing that you all could not stop talking about. And I just want to add that the video has only been up for I want to say 3 days at this point. Over 700,000 views. I just want to say that. So, shout out to you all. Okay? But what I wanted to add was that it was very interesting. There were so many things being discussed, but there was one thing that you all kept mentioning, is when Jason Lee said, oh, that guy in the suit, what that guy in the suit said, like he did not know who I am. Jason Lee knows who I am. I mean, first of all, I met him in person at the Grammys last year, but I mean, he could have forgotten me. We don't talk in person, but I'm very much aware that Jason Lee knows who I am. I've heard of my work and know who I am. I mean, am I feeling some type of way? Not that. I just think that we all knew each other's names. We were all introduced on the segment. I've been on Piers Morgan Uncensored for 2 years. This week actually marks the 2-year anniversary, because I actually went during my book tour. It was one of my first stops. I was in San Francisco I went to Santa Clara University. It was one of my, I think that was my second stop during my book tour for the Case for Cancel Culture because it came out, the last week of February of 2023. So all of this is like full circle. And so at that time, I made my first appearance on Pierce Morgan Uncensored. His show had just started after he lost his gig at Good Morning Britain, following all the drama with Meghan Markle, and he's still, look at him, still talking about Meghan Markle 2 years later. It's giving obsessed. But anyway, I was on that show then and had a very viral moment because I was calling him out about Meghan Markle, the conversations about Meghan Markle, and he was talking about my tweets, and we barely talked about the book because he wanted to just clash at me because I had tweeted so much about him. It was so petty. And I just thought that the way that I hammered him in that interview was going to be the last time I was going to be in that show. And here we are, 2 years later, dozens of episodes and appearances later and viral moments, and I'm still on the show. So Jason is fairly new. He just got on like a couple of months ago. Like, you're welcome, dear. Like, I'm happy you're on. I mean, you have your show, the Jason Lee Show. People are watching it on Zeus, I imagine. But I mean, he's also a city council member at Stockton in California. Like, he's a politician now. But it was just very interesting how he just kind of made that little dig. And I did peep it, but I keep my composure and I'm professional. Because, like, everybody on the show is going to make their little quibs and little things. And you just got to stay. You got to keep your head on the swivel and focus on the things at hand. We did agree on some things in the segment because some stuff was just like, Pierce was just doing the most. And Tommy was just batshit crazy. Like, Tommy Lauren, it's weird because there's certain things she'll say and you're like, yeah, girl. And then she's got to say that one thing. You're like, why did you do that? You were so close. You were so close. And you all know there was moments where she'll make a good point and I'll be like, okay, this is fair. And then she'll just say something just like, why did you say that? Like, I don't know. And everyone's like, why is she coming back? Like, why is she relevant again? Because Candace Owens got canceled, So now where Candace Owens would have been, Tommy sits there again. They done picked her up. New face, new look, new everything. She's a new person. And look, not thinking. But me and Tommy go way back as well, by the way. Tommy Lauren, when she used to do a show on The Blaze, I was on that show. She invited me to come on for a segment. This is like 10 years ago. Like, I know why it was 10 years ago because I was in a very different, I just remember, it was like nearly 10 years ago, I was on her show, The Blaze. And so what I want people to understand is that I have been doing this like this for a long time. The internet world, I've been in the internet. I was teasing to say I was a child star because I was born in this very hyper online internet culture. And I've been able to keep my sanity, keep my peace because this is all I know. And so when people are like, oh, are you worried about the internet? I'm like, no, because I am one of the people that is a part of this. Like, I was a part of Black Twitter in its prime. I was a part of the blogger space, the HuffPost, and what was it, the Black Voices, all the different chat spaces. Like, I was a part of that very, very, very early and was engaged in debates with some of the most prominent scholars and intellectuals online and the different people. Like, I am your faves. I wouldn't say I'm your fave because some of your faves don't like me, they hate me, but I am somebody that they know because I was like the baby of the group because I was like 23, 22, hell, but I was like 20 when I first started. Like, I was at Huffington Post at 21, writing for Huffington Post at 21. And now I'm 33. So I've been doing this for over a decade. I'm not new to this, baby. I'm true to this. Okay. So they say, well, how did you do all that when you were so young? I was a child star. Like, I was super, super young when I was in the industry. And people still call me a baby now. And I'm like, I'm grown. I pay taxes. I got a business. But I was so, my life was, it was just very different. And so, I always tell people that I might be new to you, but I'm not new to my work. And so some people feel like I was an overnight success or whatever. It's no. Your faves know that this has been a journey. None of this is overnight. Like, it's a journey. It takes years. I was just talking to my bestie, Dr. Parks, and we were talking about Sterling K. Brown, and she was just saying, like, people act like Sterling K. Brown really just came out of nowhere when he was in This Is Us. But Sterling K. Brown's career was on Broadway and other places. It was a small build-up. And he was in all these like minor roles and things before he got his big break. And so for me, I just feel like my career has been a gradual build. And I'm grateful for that because, you know, I've learned along the way mistakes and just understanding, and I've gotten betrayed and fucked over and scammed and all kind of stuff. Like the shit is crazy. And so I'm happy that I got to grow before I got to this point, because now at this point I'm prepared and I know it better, and I just get it a lot faster, and I don't have as much stumbles. You know, I'm not perfect, but I'm a little bit more, I'm more confident in my ability to deliver compared to where I was, you know, but we all got to start somewhere. And so when people just want to just instantly boom or go viral, I'm like, listen, as someone who's gone viral so many times, listen, you gotta be prepared for that shit. And we're gonna talk about that in this episode. Of course, I'm gonna talk about Chubby Chicks because you all have been, that is probably, I digress, but that is probably you all's DMs for Ask Ernest this week was probably the biggest, most requested fucking question or topic I've gotten in a while. Okay, since Darius Cooks, or we call him Darius Crooks, since the Darius Crooks incident, this is probably the most like requested Ask Ernest like I've got it. And of course, I was gonna talk about it, but I needed to, you know, get everything together before I give you my final thoughts. And I've arrived at a very strong conclusion, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's been so much, and we're gonna talk about Krasner, we're gonna talk about Dugan, we're gonna talk about what happened in the 50-second war, because I know some of you all, you might be new to this podcast, and you know, we take new people in. It's like a church, you know, new members. Welcome to Ernestly Speaking. And you know, sit back and enjoy the show and come back, because as you'll see, the journey continues. We've been following DA's race, you know, ever since candidates started declaring. You know, we followed with Pat Dugan's announcement a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and now Krasner's declared this week, and so we're going to talk about that too. But before we get into that, more back on personal life before we get into the hot topics. Yeah, Piers Morgan Center was great. It was great to come back and do my thing. You can listen to the episode. My husband, Mr. Johnson, celebrated his 30th birthday bash. Yes, his birthday was on Monday, but you all know how we do our weekend. So last weekend was our romantic Valentine's Day anniversary celebration, and then this was the birthday weekend just for him. So we threw a party with some close friends at Cuba Libre. We took over the upstairs area. It was sentimental to him because his first time abroad was in Cuba. And so he's always been in love with like the Cuban food and culture, the politics. We're not gonna get into all that, but the food and the culture and the vibes. And so I was like, you know what? What is a great place? What's a good Cuban place that we can do? Bolo just felt too tight and too small. And I didn't feel like Bolo could accommodate on a Saturday in the way in which I wanted to do this. So Cuba Libre was just perfect. I mean, they were just really accommodating. And I actually went to Cuba Libre in December, and I gave y'all a review about their tasting menu called A Taste of Havana. And I just really loved how the portion sizes were, how great just the whole entire package was. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I could serve, like if I could just make this like a dinner party situation, like get a buy-in, like, and I could just have this be served, how convenient this would be for everybody at the party. And it worked out. Like we had about 25 folks come, and it was an open bar, mojitos, sangrias. It was just shots, which was wild. They did a really great job. The Cuba Libre team in Old City were phenomenal. Like the service was impeccable. The timing, the pacing, the spacing, like everything came out on time. The food rolled out, the portions. It was just a really great time. And I paid for everything in advance. The hospitality was wonderful. It was just the in and out, and it was just, he was so happy. And so I was just happy that he had a really great party. He's like a very chill, reserved guy. We're like yin and yang. Yeah, we're very, he's an introvert, but like he'll talk when he needs to. Okay, when he's passionate, he's an Aquarius now. But he's like, overall, he's like very low key chill. Like he was like, I don't want to do a big old party. I mean, I could just do a little dinner. I was like, no, you gotta have a party. Like, and he was so happy. And everyone came out, like everyone had a great time. And it was just a really great Saturday night. And I made it in time. I slept all of Friday, and just rested and just relaxed. And then Saturday I was out doing my thing. So yeah, shout to that. Sunday I did letters to Lincoln, which was a special event at Rex de Royal, which is one of my favorite restaurants, you all know, that does really great coastal Southern cuisine. Chef Angie Brown is there, and she did a really great dinner on Sunday evening, and it was a great combination of different things. It was this wonderful event that I was the master of ceremonies for, followed by this incredible three-course dinner that she served, and it was phenomenal. Shout out to the Mirbots who came through. We saw each other back to back this weekend for, of course, Mr. Johnson's birthday, and then, of course, this Sunday supper event. So they were dope. And then Sarah Lomax from WRD, who was like my boss at the radio station, she was there. Some Penn alum and great friends. Michael Twitty, who's like one of my favorite people. He was a part of the event. He's dope. Tanya. Tanya came through, who's just a really great food, food expert. Like, she knows her food history, and she's just always a godsend. She's always a treasure. So I just love Tanya. Like, Tanya's just so like dope. And she just knows her stuff. So yeah, Tanya Hopkins is her full name. She's the food griot, and she's like a culinary historian. She does consulting, she does drink design. She's like all over the place. She's just so dope. And so yeah, it was just a great group. It was a great group with they were reading, so Michael Twitty, Elijah Pringle, and the Golly Geechee girl, who is just so phenomenal. Um she was doing a lot of the work on the event, and she just did a lot of great consulting, and she also was a reader for the event. And I want to make sure I say her name properly, but she did this really great reading as well. Valerie Irwin is her name. Valerie Irwin is her name. And she's a food justice advocate. And so they were part of the readings as well. So they were just great. But it was a very great event, a great conversation. And it was about this book called Letters to Lincoln. It was about over 100 letters written by enslaved people, individuals who wrote letters to Lincoln. That were soldiers, that were business people, different individuals. Some people that were formerly enslaved, but wrote letters to Lincoln and had a relationship. Some of them had friendships with him, and they told their stories. And it was from there. These are actual real letters written from Black people to Lincoln. And it was just, and some of the actors, voice actors, and people we had read those letters and personified the characters and the personas of the individuals who wrote these very passionate letters. So it was just super, just a very powerful, thoughtful event. And I was just happy to be a part of it and be the MC. It was very touching. And the food was great. I mean, the fried chicken and the greens from Chef Brown is just immaculate. So that was wonderful. My wonderful event that I did with the Urban League of Philadelphia, the panel I did earlier this week, was a super success. Shout out to all of you all who showed up. I saw my girl Alana, okay, all the way from DC. She came through to see me. Love her down. It was such a great event as well. Just a really great powering conversation. I was with Anthony Bellman, who I've known for years. His cousin, Anthony Phillips, who's a council member at City Council, who was in my husband and I's wedding. He was actually on my husband's side. He was one of his groomsmen. And we just all know each other for years. And just to see them, like to see Anthony be a state rep, to see Phillips be a city council member, just to know, like, Bellman's mother knew me at Penn. She works for Penn. I works at Penn. And she's known me for years and knew me when I was really, really young, like in college. And I've known Phillips since I was 18 and first came to Philly. Like, these are relationships that have expanded for like 15 years. And a lot of people were like, how do you know these people? I don't know you know these people. Listen, like I said, just because I'm new to you do not mean I'm new to this work. These politicians know me. They may not necessarily share, but when I tell you I have eyes and ears all over Philadelphia, not to say that they're my eyes and ears across Philadelphia. I'm just saying I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me. And it's not just now, but over the years in the most unique, weirdest ways. And so I always tell people, be careful what you say around people. Be mindful about who you talking shit to, because you don't know what you don't know, as Mayor Cheryl Parker once famously said, if you don't know what you don't know, just say what you don't know. She said that during the CBS PABJ debate that we did in 2023. Was it 2023? Yes, it was in 2023. And I never forget that, because that's some wise words. A lot of you all need to take those words, because some of you are out here just assuming you know people, and so so it was great to be on that panel with Bellman, and be in conversation with Bellman and other great people that were there. There was a Judge Deborah Watson, who was also there. She's running for judge, and she was on the panel talking, and she was just just doing her thing. So yeah, it's a lot of personalities. I would say that was definitely a lot of personalities in the room. And yeah, so I'm excited for all the motivations there. Shout out to Urban League for inviting me, because a lot of you Philly people, like I said on my special edition podcast, there's a lot of Philly folks. I could get taken out across the country, across the Atlantic, all around, from the West Coast and everywhere, to be a part of conversations, and the East Coast, or not even East Coast, because East Coast is cool, but like Philly itself acts funny. But maybe this week I realize why, but it was interesting. But speaking of panels, this week, for those who are avid followers of the work that I do, for my podcast people, this Wednesday from 6 to 8 at Canvas in West Philly, I will be doing a conversation called Behind the Mic. It is hosted by WRD Radio. I'm going to be with an amazing lineup of podcasters and radio hosts to talk about everything from my personal journey. And there'll be people talking about favorite tech tools, but I'll be talking about my journey to, creating my podcast and doing radio. And as you know, every Thursday on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media, Philadelphia City Council Live, with your host, me, Ernest Owens. I do that show every Thursday for WRD Radio, and I love hosting the show. So if you want to show up and show out, go to wrdradio.com /behind the mic to RSVP for this event. Again, www.wrdradio.com /behind the mic. That's it. You can see the flyer on my Instagram page. I shared it on my page, so you can see the image, the graphic, the details. But RSVP, the slots are very limited, because a lot of people are RSVPing. Like, this is going to be big. So if you're a person that's into podcasting, audio, engineering, Black audio, anything like that, you're a Black creator and want to know more about it, I will be sharing my journey behind the mic, my personal journey in audio. So it's going to be really dope. And it's it's in partnership with Scribe. This is where Scribe is at Canvas, so it's pretty dope. 3870 Lancaster Avenue, but it's in partnership with Scribe, and also shout out to our sponsors, Comcast and the Pennsylvania Lottery. Investing in great programming in the community, and I really want you all to come out and listen, and check us out. And also, if you just want a chance to see me, a lot of you all will pop up to the events and just want a selfie or just want to autograph a copy of my book. I'm still signing copies of my book. Like, somebody came to the Letters to Lincoln event dinner, and they had a copy of my book. They had 2 copies. They wanted one for themselves, and they wanted one for their sister. And it was just so random. But I was like, yo, anywhere, if you want to catch me, I will sign a book. I will never say no to sign a book unless I'm in the bathroom, which happened one time. Somebody literally saw me at a stall and was like, yo, when you're done, doing your thing, can you sign my book? I was like, yeah, outside the bathroom after I wash my hands. Listen, I got stories for days. I won't tell that. That's a little too much. But let me just say, somebody slid a copy one time under a stall. I'm going to leave it alone. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. And we won't talk about that. But this was like years ago. It was so awkward. But I've had awkward stories like that and experiences. Like, it's so much that be going on. And yeah, I just want people to be mindful. Be mindful, be demure, be classy. Everybody, if you wouldn't do it If your parents wouldn't tell you to do it, or well, some of y'all parents is a little wild, but I'm just saying, just be mindful. Just be mindful. Just be mindful. Um, so moving along, let's get to these hot topics. It's time. It's time to release the Kraken. It's time for the percolator. Let's get into these hot topics. So the department, the Department of Education, these DOE cuts is impacting Penn. That's my alma mater, University of Pennsylvania. You all know they've been kind of scaling back on DEI before we found out that there would be threats of funding cuts to universities still embracing DEI programming. It's gotten so bad with the funding across the board. I'm talking about National Institute of Health, like all these different major funding blocks, right? They're getting massive cuts. Like this Department of fucking DOGE, government, efficiency, like Elon Musk's master plan, right? His concept of a plan is doing damage. It's doing damage. There's no sugarcoating it, right? Penn is now rescinding graduate school admissions. There are professors and departments in the graduate schools across the University of Pennsylvania that have already granted admission to certain students because they get this funding. And Penn has told them they have to rescind some of those. They have not touched the undergraduate pool because a lot of undergraduates pay tuition, or there's grants and endowments that impact undergraduates, right? But graduate school is a different beast. And a lot of that money comes from grants and programs and stuff. This is going to impact the research. I mean, Penn is a top tier cancer research institution. I'm wondering if they're going to reprioritize a lot of their funding to go towards the cancer research, but a lot of the other archaeological stuff that they was doing, it's probably not going to be prioritized. I can't see it being prioritized. So there's some major reshuffling that Penn is doing, and it is very sad. And HBCUs are going to get hit the hardest. So to all these Black Trump supporters that talked about how, Trump likes the HBCUs, yada, 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 based on what he did the first time he was in office, well, you can go kiss that bye, because that's not Trump 2.0, okay? So just wanted to let y'all know that. Speaking of Trump nonsense, Black History Month, he had a Black History Month event. A lot's going on here. Jaguar Wright received some, Courage Freedom Award, which is crazy. Boosie Badass, the transphobe. Kodak Black, the convicted freak, abuser. Tiger Woods, Stage Steele, of course, that ESPN, that former sports broadcaster nut, and Rod Wave, which is just, all of them have been in Trump's Black History Month celebration alongside his other buffoons. At this point, I'm not surprised by any of the names, to be honest. Tiger Woods, y'all, let's not act like we didn't see that coming with Tiger Woods, okay? Him and Trump has always been besties. Boosie the transphobe. So here, let me say this. Because Kodak Black's been on the Trump train, so that's not a shocker. Jaguar Wright, we didn't know she was a Trumper, but it just furthers the point, right? Everybody was making excuses for Jaguar Wright and her crazy conspiracy theories, but I always said to people, they were trying to believe that shit about Jay-Z and all that stuff. I said, is Jaguar Wright credible, y'all asked me? And what did I tell you all? And look who she's getting honored by, and look who she's showing. But this is supposed to be this conscious Black female musician that is so conscious and so for the people, but you're aligning yourself with Trump. But you're having all these conversations, conspiracy theories about abusers and rapists and problematic people, but you will align yourself with Trump. Not here for it, right? So you got that going on. Then you also got, Boosie, which a lot of people try to defend Boosie, even though he was consistently harassing Lil Nas X with all the homophobia, all the problematic shit. And everybody was like, oh, he just has his own opinion. I said, that man, see, you all are seeing there's a correlation between the transphobia, the homophobia, and all this bigotry with people like Trump. So, it's not surprising to me that these people makes these pivots. And we're going to see more of this. So just stay tuned. Unfortunately, stay tuned. But while there was tragic embarrassment in our community, there was a reminder of Black excellence on the other side, or somewhat. We'll get there. The NAACP Awards was this weekend, and Kamala Harris, former Vice President Kamala Harris, received the Chairman's Award from the NAACP for her work, and she gave a very passionate speech, just trying to give people hope. And a lot of people have been, saying, where has she? She's been silent. Where's Obama? Why are they not talking? Why Joe Biden hasn't said anything? You know what annoys me about this? Is that I just don't get folks, right? What can they say? They've given speeches on the campaign trail. They were sucking up the media attention for several months. You were so sick and tired of them. What the fuck? The people have spoken, right? Voters have spoken. I mean, if anything, I would rather them take some time and just heal. And to be honest with you, a lot of people who voted for Trump, didn't canvass, didn't show up, didn't tell people to vote the right way, play undecided, play uncommitted, all this bullshit. Where are y'all at? Stop asking for them. Where's Jill Stein? Where's Cornel West? Okay, ask for those people. The people who told you that they were going to have a revolution, right? The ones who was like, they were going to fight the good fight regardless of what's going to happen. Where is those crusaders that you all act like were the real people that had the plan? Now, Bernie Sanders is out here still talking, and he's showing up. But that's because he's in the Senate. So he kind of has no other choice. But a lot of these other people that you're asking for, leave them alone, to be honest. Because you'll want to hear from Obama. Obama didn't already told you what to do. Don't boo, vote. And what did you all do? A lot of you all, right? So I just don't know why you're begging for them to do more. Like, I feel like in many ways, this is an opportunity for new leaders to be born, new voices to emerge. And in some sense, the establishment Democratic Party is clearly not the answer to our future. So I don't necessarily know if that's the direction that, I don't necessarily know if we need to hear more from them, or maybe if it's wise for them to take some time to figure out how they want to show up. I mean, now listen, Harris is out here, scaring the California candidates. Everybody over there shook the gubernatorial candidates in California, all biting their nails, trying to shake and shift because they think she's going to run for governor. Please don't. There's also a conversation. She's signed to an agency, CAA. So, she's about to write a book. She's about to get an agent. She's about to do a documentary. She's about to go on her Hillary Make Money Great Again tour, which, I mean, listen, she tried. Okay. And so I just don't have smoke for her at this point. I mean, she ran, she did the thing, she ran, and she lost. This is the second time she's run for president. Okay. And look, what else can she do? Like, you all want her to spend 4 years campaigning again? Like, leave her alone. Just let them rock. But her speech was good. It was powerful, and it's great to see her looking good. She looks good. Her suit, her iconic pantsuit look. Yeah. Doug was there. They're just relaxing, man, and they're doing their thing. But the reason why I had a little bit of reservation for the NAACP Awards is because the President's Award went to Dave Chappelle. Y'all, I think Dave Chappelle is on an image repair tour. I think he's trying to really, get his shit together, because I think he does feel like he's never going to admit it, probably, but there's got to be a sense of him that feels like the people that he was aligning himself with, his biggest supporters, were people that were actually not voting, were not as critical or thoughtful to vote for the right people for these elected office seats. In other words, there were a lot of Trumpers who were looking at him as this leader of truth, and he was drinking that Kool-Aid, thinking that he was this everyday man, even though the types of people that were supporting him were not the kind of people that should have been supporting him, to be honest. They really shouldn't have been aligning themselves with him. They shouldn't have. And, he benefited from that, I feel like a lot of his rhetoric, which I talked about in my book, but a lot of his rhetoric fueled the type of dissension that came from the left about, cancel culture, about their thoughts on trans people, all he represented the Wayfair black male who was liberal, but then was entertaining things that were skewing to the right. Like, he's the personification of that shift, I felt like, in liberal culture. This type of sense of like, there was a sense of decency that people have for each other. And I felt like during the past 4 years, we saw this shift where you start seeing more and more men on the left begin to entertain. Like, we look at Bill Maher. I mean, Bill Maher was always a mess, but this Bill Maher we're seeing in the past couple years, it just seems so like, dude, are you a Republican, dude? Just say that. Like, you're not a reasonable liberal. You're someone, I mean, it's racist, it's trans. I mean, it's just so fucked up. And so there's a lot of energy that I think came from the Dave Chappelle's. Because what annoyed me about him was he centered his own self in a lot of his shit that made it look like he's the everyday person. Dude, no. And that's not how power works. You're one of the most influential, powerful comedians of our time. You won the fucking Mark Twain Award, Mark Twain Prize. Like, you're not just some regular guy who just has a different opinion. Like, your opinions and what you've said about trans people is violent. I mean, if you look back, even the R. Kelly "I Want to Piss on You" song was making a mockery of sexual abuse towards minors. Like, so much of Dave Chappelle's work has aged poorly in the cultural sense. Like, that type of humor doesn't work in the same ways of now. And he wants to act like it's censorship and political correctness. Dude, you're rich. You're a fucking multimillionaire. You're fine. Like, shut up. You still win Grammys. Your transphobic comedy specials are still winning Grammys. He's won Grammys. He's winning awards. He's been nominated for Emmys. Like, where's the cancellation, dude? Like, Netflix still keeps letting you do specials. Like, shut up. Like, I just, stuff like that annoys me because there are real people who've experienced this, and he's not one of them. And yet he whines and whimpers just because some people don't think he's as funny anymore. I'm one of those people. He's not as funny anymore. It's whiny. It's bratty. It's so like you're you know, old man yelling at the sky. That's how I feel about him now. So for him to get that award by NAACP during this era just kind of felt backwards. And so, yeah. Meanwhile, while, you know, Harris is winning her chairman's award and doing her best thing. And so for people that's confused, the president of the NAACP gives out his own award during the awards. The president does. And then the board chairman gives his own award. NAACP is very political, very structured, like the powers that be. Like, the board chairman of the NAACP has their own power and respect. I've met him before at the convention when it was in Philadelphia. This was like 10 years ago. And the president, who's a different president than now, this president is very different in his own right. So it's a very interesting culture that the NAACP has. Very, very political, very different. Meanwhile, Trump was at CPAC, still talking about Harris, cannot keep her name out of his mouth, making remarks about MSNBC, which we'll get into, and having so much to say. So, very telling. Also, I want to talk about this real quickly. A lot of you have been sharing articles about how the Council of Governors, which is this national entity, everyone's been talking about how Trump has appointed, some Democrats. I know some of them is Governor Wes Moore, Governor Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer is one of them, and two others. But, everyone's like, they took a Trump appointment, all this nonsense. Let me be very clear about that Council of Governors. It consists of 10 governors that are appointed to 2-year terms by the president. 5 have to come from each party, right? And 2 governors serve as co-chairs. So, 2 governors serve as co-chairs. I think Shapiro is going to be the chair. He's serving as the chair. There's 5. There has to be 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Honestly, if you want to be the next president of the United States, like I believe Wes Moore wants to, of course Shapiro's, wants it. You gotta be present. This is, I'm not saying it's an honor to be appointed by the president, but like, if you all look at how many Democratic governors we have, it was only so many he could pick, and these are powerful states. Like Maryland is in DC's in Maryland, right? So Westmore makes sense. Pennsylvania is a big fucking deal, so of course Shapiro will be there. Michigan's a big fucking deal, so of course Gretchen Whitmer. Like, what do you all expect? Some people just make everything this big scandal. So then what would have happened if Trump would have picked, well, first of all, he couldn't. He technically has to pick two from each party. But let's just say he cheated and just said, I'm going to change the rules over like he did with the Kennedy Center and just appoint 10 Republicans. Then everyone would have called it a scandal. Then it would have been, look at him seizing power. There's no Democrats in the council. That would have been a headline. So then, okay, he does pick 5, right? He picks, he does the numbers. And then you're like, why did they accept? Well, what the fuck do you want? What the fuck do you want? Like, I just don't know. I mean, they're there. We'll see. Like, low-hanging fruit people. Low-hanging fruit. I just saw so many people making their own speculations and conspiracy theories. It's like, like at the end of the day, like, something's got to give. He's the president. If you felt all these things, did you knock on doors? Did you canvass? Did you vote? Did you do all that? And if you didn't do all that, it just okay. So moving along, Eric Adams is a free NYC mayor for now, because Governor Kathy Hochul will not remove him. There was a lot of people that thought that maybe, the governor could step in. The governor, who is a Democrat, Governor Kathy could have, sought the way to remove him, but she has not. And he is still there. And interesting enough, he is suing the Trump administration. Yes, the guy who y'all thought he was buddies with to help that them charges get dropped, he is suing the Trump administration for a return of $80 million. Now, it was seized. Okay, it was seized from the city accounts by the Trump administration. This was money that was given during the Biden administration to help with the work they were doing around migrants. Now the money has been missing and taken, and now Mayor Adams wants that money back. We'll see if he can get it back, because maybe the Trump administration will be like, well, if you want that money back, we're going to give you them charges back. I don't know. But Eric Adams is trying to sue for the money back. So we'll see how that plays out. He better watch out, because, again, on the topic of council culture, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo wants Eric Adams' job. Andrew Cuomo, who is Chris Cuomo's big brother, the one, Andrew Cuomo, the one who was accused of sexual misconduct, all of those things. He's denied the allegations. But this man, okay, because I want to be very clear, this man is trying to make a serious bid for mayor. There's been reports that he has been talking to members of the Black community all throughout New York City. He's been talking to Orthodox Jewish community. He's been making his rounds. And a lot of people who are what would have been Eric Adams' base might be moving towards Andrew Cuomo. All I'm going to say is, I'm not sneezing at his bid for mayor. I think he could potentially win. I do not rule him out. I'm not saying he has it, but I'm just saying that I could see it, is all I'm saying. This man went from being a disgraced governor to now potentially making a comeback as an NYC mayor. Don't sleep on it. Pay very close attention to that primaries coming up next year. Keep your eyes on that race, because there is a strong chance that Andrew Cuomo might do the unthinkable. But is it really unthinkable? I mean, he's a rich white man. I mean, could it really be unthinkable? But it is something to say about the era of politics. But it also goes to show, because in my book, I quote him how he criticized council culture. Could this been something he has turned around to leverage in his favor in uncertain times? Who knows? But all I got to say is that during the pandemic, people loved Andrew Cuomo. And at one point in time, he was looked at as a potential presidential candidate in the future. And then that kind of got, ruined by allegations and his own way of messaging around them. So we'll see where that goes. But I thought that was very important to share. You are like, ooh, Ernest, you're cruising through. You know why? Because we're going to take some time on two very big topics that I know this is what you're here for, okay? So we going through because we got to get to the meat. So. Okay, I want to change this order because I'm going to do these things back to back because I know this is what you want. MSNBC has a major shakeup. Simone Sanders, Townsend, Alicia Menendez, and Michael Steele is in. Joy Reid, the Reid report is out. Joy Reid's show, which was on MSNBC for 5 years, has been canceled. Simone Sanders, Alicia Menendez, and Michael Steele, the former RNC chair, they are moving into weekday show. They're gonna do a show like they've had on the weekend, but on the day in the weekdays, like a panel. And yeah. Now Simone Sanders, as y'all remember, she had her own show, but that show kind of got like, it wasn't feeling that show. So they put her on a panel where she has, stood out, and that seems to be working for them. MSNBC had a lot of great ratings during the Kamala Harris campaign. But now, because Trump's got reelected, Fox is back on top. CNN is struggling the most. MSNBC is number 2. CNN is number 3. CNN is trying to do some stuff to get back on top, but it just seems like everybody's checked them out. Fox News is back on top again. The Trump win brought Fox News back in, so everybody's running back to Fox News all over again for now. It's very telling. It's very telling. It's so telling that this is our media landscape. No one's shocked. Melissa Harris Perry spoke and said she wasn't shocked. Everyone's asking me what my thoughts are. It's unfortunate, but cable news, y'all. I'm not saying that I support BS or whatever. It's unfortunate to see any black member of the press lose an opportunity. It is unfortunate. I mean, she's done she's made some strong points. She's done some powerful work. And a lot of people have benefited off her show. But in some ways, I would just say, I'll be respectful. I would just say that when you play the game eventually plays you. I'll say that. But I wish her well on her journey and how she continues to pursue her career, and I will say that. And we're going to move on. So, let's talk about what happened in the 52nd Ward. I know this is what you all are here for. Many of you are. As, I guess another month, another breaking news, right? January I broke the news around the 76ers place not happening. And now I broke the news and the details to the public. And what a rapid incident response the past 24 hours have been following this DA race scandal. So let me just start off by saying, and I'm going to reiterate this, I'm a journalist, okay? I'm not your friend. I'm not your bestie, unless I am in real life. But I'm not your friend. I'm not your bestie. Politicians, okay? My job is to speak truth to power. My job is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And anyone is expecting me to do otherwise is a problem. I try to tell people that in this work that I do, people will always assume my agenda. They will always assume my positioning. They will always assume my politics. And I tell people that when I do the work of journalism, what I see, what I know, what is credible, what is factual, what's important to the public interest, I report on it. And I think a lot of times people assume that my politics is going to be one way or the other. I think in Philadelphia, covering Democrats, if you have been following my work, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, you know that with me, when you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Whether you're the Working Families Party, the Democratic establishment, a progressive, a Republican, I've covered them all. I've covered people who's been indicted. I've covered people who's been elevated. I've covered people from various experiences. Some people I've covered when I was in the poll booth, I voted for them, and some I didn't. But nonetheless, It's not personal for me. My pursuit to cover the truth is personal to me. The individuals, it's whatever. And I think sometimes people try to lie, people try to spin, people try to put me in one box over other. When I broke the story about the 76ers arena not working and failing, a lot of the moderates, a lot of the establishment was so upset. They was mad at me. And the progressives loved that I broke the story. The progressives, when it came to the conversation around the 76ers arena, I thought it was a dumb plan. Okay? I agreed with those members of city council who voted against the arena. I thought they had courage. I thought it was a smart thing to do. And that's what it was. Now, there are people who I've had respect for and I've had agreements with that disagreed on that stance, right? Labor, the unions, the African American Chamber of Commerce, the black clergy, of the majority of city council, some of whom, like I just mentioned earlier, except council member Anthony Phillips, who I've known in my family for many years, there was a disagreement. He voted for the arena, right? For various reasons. But at the end of the day, that didn't change my stance. Because they said they had a job to do. Well, guess what? I got a job too. I got a career, actually. And so there is no, people say there's no honesty amongst thieves, but they'll say there's no permanent friends, no permanent enemies in politics, is what I was told. Now, I don't play politics. I let the politicians play politics. But I'm just using your words to let you understand that when it comes to the free press, we're never your permanent enemy or your permanent friend. What we are seeking is the truth. They say, well, what do you want? What's your agenda? The truth, baby. The truth. And when I get the receipts and the people need to know, So I want to put that disclaimer because right now, a lot of the moderates, a lot of the, establishment Dems that don't like Krasner, they didn't want to endorse him. Oh, they love me this month, don't they? Beyonce never lied. Okay? There's a great song in the album of Renaissance, and I love that song. It's a song called Heated. And a lot of you all already know the lyric that I'm about to sing from that song. Okay? Drinking my water, minding my business. Monday, I'm overrated. Tuesday, on my dick. Flip, floppity, flopping ass bitch. Fan me off, watch my wrist go click. That is literally the way this feels every time I do this job when it comes to both sides. They're like kids, right? Because on Monday, right, that Monday, right, January, I was overrated. And then Tuesday, I'm on my dick. So, it's just a flip-floppity ass bitchery for me. Not saying these people are flip-floppity, but I'm just saying the shoe fit. I'm just saying that a lot of these people who were big critics of me, and in January, they felt the way they felt. It was upset and was like, oh, Ernest is a bias. He's a progressive. He pushes the progressive agenda. Now, granted, I am who I am, right? But I'm also honest. I'm not blind. I'm not a liar. I don't go after, I don't ignore what's in my face, because that's just not, see, my mindset is truth and honesty and accountability and integrity and courage that builds a group, right? When you see a person you love doing something wrong and their hubris and their arrogance and their ego is so inflated that they won't listen to you, sometimes you got to show them better. You can tell them. Sometimes people got to fuck around and find out. I think that's what Krasner, has once said, right? And sometimes different positions and communities and sides, sometimes you have to have the tough conversation. Sometimes you have to make things clear, right? So I just want to be clear that people can interpret things various ways. And you can interpret it a different way. You can make me the villain. You can act like I'm just out to get you. But I'm not. No. I'm doing my goddamn job. And I feel like it's interesting. Everybody says they want journalists to tell the truth and seek truth and get accountability and get information and do whatever. But everybody want to tell you how to do your fucking job, right? The difference between me telling politicians to do their job is that I actually pay for their labor like we all do as taxpayers. But, politicians is not funding my work. City council is not funding my work. And last time I checked, I have my own editors, my own team, my own lawyers, my own team, or whatever to do, hold me accountable, right? The public do. That's who holds me accountable. The public reads, right? If it's not true, if it's whatever, I'm held to a code of ethics. I'm held to a standard. And I just think it's just so interesting that when either side feels burned, then they want to throw you out the window. I am a Libra. I balance the scales. I'm going to always have a balance. There is always going to be an equilibrium of a homeostasis, a maintenance of the up and the down. It's never always going to go on one extreme to another. It's always going to be something that holds the gravity forces. I think about it with Helen Gim when she went to the Union League. But at the same time, Jeff Brown was a whole buffoon making a whole hot-ass mess. Like, there's always a balance in this. And when you've covered politics for as long as I have, you recognize that there's always going to be something right and flawed on all these different sides. And everybody gets their day. Everybody has their moment. Some people too many goddamn moments, and they're still in office. Like why is Rochelle Bilal, she just has a bad day very often. And there's days where she gets victory, right? But everybody in this space, in this political space, it happens. And as a journalist, I keep the score. So I kept the score, in this regard. So I just want to preface that because sometimes people just be so ready to have these cheap talking points and feel like they got to be on the defensive. Sometimes, and I'm talking to my fellow progressives, sometimes you got to take notes. Sometimes before you're quick to defend, you need to back up and observe and read the room. And I really need to say this to white progressives because black progressives, to be honest, we don't do that when it comes to these politicians, especially politicians in the local level, because we all see politicians, especially if they're Democrats, we all see the flaws within them. And it's like, we don't put anything past anybody. But what's weird to me is that white progressives that arguably take an exponential amount of space in the city when it comes to politics than they should. They drown out black voices. They ignore brown voices. They just do a lot of double speak and talking over black voices. They try with me. They don't like me because I'm the black smart voice that they had to deal with in the schools and colleges to which they went to, that they wish could shut up because they're intimidated. They really think we're DEI hires, but they know we're really smarter than them. And they literally try to be condescending and passive aggressive to us in ways that try to push us out of movement spaces and communities that we belong to and that we actually created. Yeah, I fucking said it. And if you do it around this DA's race to other black and brown people like you did the last time, you will see problems that you will not resolve. That is the reason why Helen Gim is lost. That is the reason why progressives have not taken back as much as they could in certain neighborhoods, because the over-talking from white progressives in this city over black voices that share different perspectives than them within progressive liberal spaces is why things have not moved as forward as it could be. Maybe you might want to step out the way. You keep talking about Bob Brady's in the way with the establishment, which is true. Maybe you should look at yourself in the mirror as well, because nobody's winning right now. Democrats are not even winning when they have the majority of the positions and seats in Philadelphia right now. But yet they're not winning. Where is the gains? Where are the gains? Like, look at me, just being so grammatically incorrect right now. I'm so annoyed with the lack of preparation. I mean, we can't even. I mean, the 250th anniversary of democracy is next year, and the planning is a shit show. But I digress. So let's talk about the 52nd Ward. The 52nd Ward is in West Philadelphia. It is a major ward. And the reason I'm going to say a major ward, because I want to make sure I provide context why. Anytime you're in a major ward where either the chair of the ward or the committee or the area of that ward or the ward leader themselves is elected official, it will warrant a level of attention because we want to see where this stuff goes. So it's very telling where it would go. So, for example, I think about in West Philly, for example, you have Amin Brown, who he is a leader, and he's a state rep, and he's in the 60th ward, and so he's doing a judicial candidates petition sign. He had that on Sunday. That ward, the 60th ward, and because he's a part of that and he's in leadership and representation, people look at that ward because they're like, okay, what does that tell us about Almond Brown's endorsement? Like, who is he going to endorse? What does that tell us about his policy? I mean, in this DA's race, it's pretty obvious that he's most likely not going to endorse. I mean, he's probably not going to endorse Krasner, but it's just interesting anytime. So in the 52nd ward, you have Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson, who is a chair there. She is not the ward leader, but she does hold heavy influence over there in that ward. There's a lot of other elected officials in other wards across. Like Sherelle Parker was a ward leader for a long time. I think she still might be. I don't know. She might still be a ward leader over there in Northwest. But there's other elected officials. I think Kenyatta Johnson might be a ward leader still. But there's a lot of elected officials. I mean, Nutter was a ward leader for cry out loud. But a lot of elected officials are like ward leaders. And in my opinion, okay, I don't think that elected officials, I think Cindy Bass is too, but like there's a lot of elected officials that are ward leaders. And I've written about this years ago when I was a columnist at Metro. I don't think elected officials should be ward leaders. That's just my personal politics. Whether they're progressive, moderate, I just don't think they should. At a certain point, I just feel like you should let other leaders be leaders. You should let other people, lead, and there should just be a diversity of politics. Now, if a person is a ward leader and they one day aspire to run for office, like what a great opportunity for them to understand the community so they can then, be a better leader potentially. But like, I just think that there's just too much political overgrab. Like, why are you the ward leader? Why are you just like, it's just cringy to me. And also, what I'm about to tell you all about what happened in 52nd Ward makes a case for me. Open the fucking wards. I think we should have more open wards. Okay, the 27th ward in West Philly is an open ward. And I feel like when I look at the way they endorse, a lot of times it is standouts as both. They were one of the few wards in Philadelphia County to endorse John Fetterman. I know we don't like Senator John Fetterman as much now because he's a hot ass mess. He's contradictory. He's hypocritical as hell. Yeah, I said it, okay? But like, again, being fair, because in the very beginning when he ran, he was not the man that he is today. I think we all can agree on that. But like the 27th ward endorsed him in West Philly for senator when everybody else was told Connor Lamb. Okay? I remember that. Or Malcolm Kenyatta, right? It was a mixed bag, right? But everybody was either Connor Lamb or Malcolm Kenyatta. And for Fetterman to be, that would be one of the few words he got. The power of an open ward where people don't dictate, the party don't dictate, a ward leader just don't make a decision. It's powerful, right? So I just think I think we should have open wards. I'm not really a favor of these closed wards because when we have closed wards, it's just, to me, I just feel like it's less democratic. So these are my views, very progressive views, right? Some of the moderates and the establishment folk that's liking whatever the hell I just broke news on this week, they're probably listening to me like, this is the part when they go, I don't agree with you on everything, but I do. You don't have to. The fuck, we're human beings. I don't agree with everything you say. I really wish people will stop saying, although I don't agree with you on everything, who the fuck do you agree with on everything with? Hell, there are times where I don't even agree with myself from shit I done did some years ago. Like, I just feel like it's such a waste. It's almost like an under backhanded compliment. Like telling the person, although I don't agree with you on everything, I do. Fucking who cares? Just give the fucking compliment. Just say, you made a really good point there. I agree with that point. I've never said that to anybody. Any elected official, I never tell them, although I don't agree with you on everything, I tell them, that was a good point you made. I thank you for that vote. You get what I'm saying? Compliment people on the thing you like about them. Stop talking about all the things you blah, blah, blah. I just think that's just so corny. I don't know. People always do that. So anyway, 52nd ward. Just now that you have that context. Because some people listen to this podcast don't understand how words work. So right now, the wards are now considering endorsements for DA candidates and judicial candidates. Okay, let the games begin. The Democratic Party did not endorse anyone in DA's race. And this is not the first time they've done this. They did this the last cycle. And here they are again, doing it again. They did it in 2021. Here we are in 2025. They're doing it again. Okay. But wards also get a chance to make their own endorsements in their respective areas. And it is up to candidates to go to every ward to try to win it. Just like Fetterman said, every district, every precinct or whatever, every vote. And he literally won everyone in the Democratic primary. That clearly won't be the case this time around. I would bet if he runs for re-election, in a couple of years. But I just feel like that's important to note because every ward has its own identity and speaks for itself. And so right now it is endorsement season. Right now people are, making bids, having interviews to try to get the leadership or the wards to endorse them. So on Saturday, the 52nd ward had their endorsement meeting. And while there were some people that tried to figure out, like, what does that mean, this and the third, let me be very clear, just crystal clear. There are an endorsement meeting where the decision is being made is a private, separate meeting that is not amongst candidates and people, right? But an endorsement meeting to the public and candidates is what was on Saturday afternoon at the 52nd ward. Candidates were supposed to come and speak. Their respective chairs, leaders, and other people also introduced candidates. Were there to try to vet for candidates and vie for candidates and be there in support. It's all the funny politics, especially if it's a closed ward. So, according to Pat Dugan, who announced that he was running a couple of weeks prior to Krasner announced earlier this week, Rochelle Bilal, Kenyatta Johnson, Kendra Brooks, Rue Landau, they were present in support of him. He's got a lot of support from a lot of different people. Rick Krasner was there on that stage. A lot of different people was on that stage. I can't think of all the Democrats, but I was just shocked about Rochelle Bilal and Kenyatta Johnson specifically. Those two surprised me the most. Everybody else was kind of like, yeah, they're progressive, Working Families Party affiliate, Working Family Party endorsed candidates. Like, I wasn't surprised. Reclaim endorsed candidates. I wasn't surprised about the folks, but I was the most surprised about those two. But anyway, once Krasner had officially declared, he was out on the ballot trying to get these endorsement awards. So Pat Dugan said that he was not invited. Okay? He claims he was not invited to that 52nd Ward Democratic endorsement meeting. He was not invited. And so what happens in that meeting is that, first of all, invitation matters because if you're invited, you get a text message, you get phone calls, they contact you, and they tell you what you need to do to show up. Now, every candidate may not know the date or the time when to go, whatever. It's complicated. And so when you don't know, no one's there, no one tells you anything like that, and you're not invited, it pretty much the chances that you'll get in is hard. The chance that you'll get endorsed is not happening, especially if you're dealing with a closed ward because it's like inside ball, right? If you know the players politically, you can kind of predict who's going to get endorsed now. Like, for example, the 60th ward is not endorsed yet, I believe, but I can be willing to bet that Krasner's probably not going to get that endorsement. And we can judge on previous endorsements over the past. Like, you just got to study this. It's like a football game with stats and things. Like, there's a science to this shit. So, one thing that stood out to me was that, look, Krasner was there. And these details matter when I'm putting this there. Some other judicial candidates were there. And they were there to speak to the ward leadership. And in that room was a man named Stephen Jones, or Mr. Steve, as they call him. Mr. Steve was there. Mr. Steve is the ward leader. Stephen Jones is a very older man. He is a powerful ward leader. And he's very powerful. He is, people know that he goes back many, many years. He's affectionately called Mr. Steve. I'm going to call him another name in a minute. But we're going to stay on topic. So Steve has a lot of power. He goes back in the Nutter era. Nutter and him were close because Nutter is from Winfield, okay? And Winfield is in West Philly and Overbrook and all that. This is West Philly. This man is a West Philly legend, Mr. Steve. He's a political legend. There's several iconic world leaders in Philadelphia. He's one of them. Nobody goes in West Philly politics without going to see Mr. Steve. Okay? A lot of your favorite West Philadelphia elected officials, women, men, you name it, they go to Mr. Steve to get the endorsement, to get the job done. So there's a reason why Krasner went over there, because Mr. Steve has endorsed Krasner each time Krasner has run. He supports him. Mr. Steve likes Krasner. These are facts. And Krasner knows who Mr. Steve is. Krasner has met Mr. Steve several times politically because he has sought that endorsement several times. These are facts. Here's another fact. Mr. Steve is a certified pedophile. He is a convicted child molester. Okay? And that conviction took place this month. Yes, this month, Stephen Jones, was convicted on several acts of child molestation. This is nothing to laugh at. This is nothing to sneeze at. It is a serious matter. So it is very important. Okay? And I think what people need to know is details about it, right? I looked at the court dockets. So here's the facts that we need to talk about before I get into what else went down. Because at this ward meeting, at this 52nd Ward Democratic endorsement meeting on Saturday, this convicted pedophile, Stephen Jones, was present. After being convicted earlier this month, around February 10th, he was at that ward meeting. He was at that gathering. Krasner was there. Other Democrats were there. Other committee people, other ward people, they were there in the same room. Those candidates were there. So a court docket said that he was charged in 2023 for 2 felony counts: unlawful contact with minor, sexual offenses, and aggravated indecent assault against a person under the age of 13. The jury found him guilty of the 2 related misdemeanors. Apparently, the DA's office did not pursue one of the original misdemeanors, which was endangering the welfare of a child or parent or guardian. But what is really concerning about this is that when you look at this docket, which the charge was in 2023, okay, the indecent assault was described as a person who engages in penetration, however slight, of the genitals or anus of a complainant with a part of the person's body for any purpose other than good faith, medical, hygienic, or law enforcement procedures. Commits aggravated indecent assault if the complainant is less than 13 years of age. This is the Pennsylvania statute. At this point, I mean, once, this is a trigger warning for those who I don't want to, it gets more heinous. But this show does give a warning of explicit content. So whether it's profanity or whatnot, mature audiences, listener discretion is advised. So his bail was set at $150,000. The court indicated that he paid 10% of a security deposit, which is only $15,000. They always pay $17,000. This was his second trial on the charges, because the first time he had the trial was a hung jury. So this guilty verdict, he was found guilty because there was a second trial on the charges. The first one ended with a hung jury. Now, the sentencing for this case is on May 22nd. Why does May 22nd matter? Because the primary is on May 20th. At this time, Jones is 79 years old. The victim in question is allegedly his granddaughter. I've covered Philadelphia politics for over 10 years. There's been all kind of crazy shit that has come to my desk. There's been all kind of ridiculous stuff that's been said, actions. I mean, I've seen it and covered it all, so I thought. But it baffles me that in 2025, with all of the conversations around, A minors and certified pedophiles and they not like us and all this rhetoric, that there has been a pedophile amongst the Democratic Party, a man that was charged, and the charges are so alarming. And people can argue innocent until proven guilty, but the details in this case, the person who accused this man of this behavior, it's quite alarming. And what's alarming to me is that it's really hard for me to believe that in a city this small, with political connections, that over the past 2 years, that Jones was going through this legal process, not one time did the DA himself know this. I mean, this happened in Philadelphia. This all took place within the police department and the DA's office. A ward leader of this magnitude and this prominence. Nothing? Didn't know? Democratic leadership didn't know? Nobody who was connected and close by didn't know? How? I mean, are you dumb or are you stupid? Or do you think we're dumb or stupid? Is my question. Because there's just no way. I don't recall ever meeting Mr. Steve in person. But since I broke this story, and we'll talk about the breaking this story, I will tell you that I've spoken to people close to that ward who've told me stories. Women have told me stories. Now, these stories are allegations, but they've told me situations in which women did not feel comfortable being alone with him. They have said to me, allegedly, that they have not wanted to be alone with him, that they've always wanted someone around, that he has given quote unquote weird vibes, that he's come across as very creepy, that he has been belligerent and he's been mean, he's been very political. But even women have said that they have not felt comfortable being around him. Not all women, mind you, but there have been some women. And I've also heard from sources that several people were aware of this, that people have known about this. This was whispered amongst the party. This was whispered around. This was a little thing you don't talk about, right? Like, you know how in the community we have the uncle that people don't want to say out loud, the uncle's the molester, but they say, you know what, don't leave my kids alone with him. But we're not going to talk about it. Because they need Mr. Steve for the endorsements. They need proximity to the power. Because they've chosen their careerism and their politics above common decency. Have you no fucking decency, Philadelphia politics? Have you no fucking decency, Democratic establishment? What I want you to know is that they knew. And if they did not know, the question becomes, what the fuck are you all doing? You want me to believe that this man has been in this system, deep in that ward politics, committee politics, and none of you knew that there was a trial, that there were charges. And the mere fact of the charges alone, don't you think that being accused and charged of child pedophilia is enough to say, you know what, maybe you should resign? Step down. You've been here for long. You're in your late 70s. You're about to be 80 or something. Like, wouldn't this be enough to say maybe you should leave? You're being accused of touching people under the age of fucking 13. My brother, my youngest brother is 14. And by the way, this is a young black girl because he's black. This is allegedly his granddaughter. It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me that a young girl in this community, that there were people that knew. I don't fucking believe them. Don't believe them. They're too smart. They're too connected. They're too conniving. They're too crafty. That DA's office, nobody knew. So nobody knew for the past 2 years. But somehow, his sentencing, conveniently, is 2 days after the primary. I have heard from sources in that DA's office that his original sentencing date was not initially on May 22nd, that there was some delay, that there was some changes. What I heard, it could be speculative. I can't confirm nor deny. But I do, regardless, find it interesting that the sentencing is 2 days after the primary is done. So in other words, if the sentencing was before the primary, what a shakeup that would have been. Interesting. Interesting. It's interesting to me. So now to breaking the news and what happened. At the end of Saturday, there was rummagings around that this man was a pedophile. And I thought to myself, well, how did people just suddenly find out? Late that night, I got a tip from somebody in West Philly that said, hey, I was at this ward event. They had footage. Sent it. I got the footage. In the video, there were several judicial candidates, elected officials, and politicians. And I saw Krasner. And I said, what am I looking at? Like, I don't understand. They said, the ward leader is a convicted pedophile. I said, stop it. Like, what's his name? How old is he? Like, stop lying. Well, got access to the court document, saw the name, looked up the date of birth, the age, all the stuff was connected. And I was like, fuck. So in that moment, I thought to myself, has anybody wrote about this? Nobody reported on it that I saw. Nobody, I didn't see any articles. I didn't see anybody actually, report on it, share it, whatever. I don't know who knew what. I don't know if other media knew. Don't know. But immediately after I saw that, I had the facts. I had the confirmations. I reached out to some people that was in the committees. I reached out to some people that were present, that knew that ward specifically. I'm not a part of the 52nd ward. But I knew certain players, and I was like, okay, what's the context here? I did my research. I had the confirmations, and I broke the story. I had the video proof because I knew that if I just went on the internet and said this stuff about this guy, I know what people were going to say. Krasner wasn't there. Well, I don't know if he was. People just will assume the best they can about their elected officials. I realized that as a guy who had to catch, you got to remember my background real quick, y'all. 2016, I covered neighborhood racism. Do y'all remember that? Some of y'all may have not remembered that. And at the time, I was covering acts of racial discrimination at bars. And I was getting tons of stories and experiences that I heard. I had experienced racism in the neighborhood as a Black queer man. Like, I had these experiences, but other people told their stories and I was covering them. And white people, because let's be real, it was a lot of white gay people, were like, oh, that's just a lie. Or maybe this is misinterpreted. There's no way it is that they're racist. And I was talking about eye candy that is no longer here. Thank goodness. Eye candy bar. And I was like, the owner, I had heard stories that he was racist, that he was doing these things. I was like, listen, there's some concerns coming out of eye candy. And I talked about how there was a no Timberlands ban and people just was still gaslighting me and saying, oh, that doesn't mean it's racism, even though they were letting people wear Doc Martens every other boot under the planet. So people didn't believe me. And then I got access to a recording of the owner being caught on camera using the N-word in the bar and referring to one of his Black co-workers, his Black employees as the N-word. And this was the owner of the bar. And when that video dropped, it changed everything. My career changed, the journalism changed, the work changed, the conversation changed. The Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, PCHR, got involved. Activists were already protesting. There were Black activists already protesting those bars, but they got more visibility. People began to take them seriously because there was a thing called proof. And it's sad that in this day and age that people have to have proof, like proof like that kind of level of proof, right? That we don't believe victims or we don't believe people who, but it's just like, that is just unfortunately the situation that we're in 2025, right? So as a Black journalist, I can't simply just say something. I have to have, proof, insight. I have to be able to name names, give dates, or just, whatever. And so in this situation, I knew that if I said Krasner was there, people were going to lie he wasn't. You remember with Helen Gim at the Union League, I had to have a photo of Helen Gim being at the Union League. I had to have video proof of Jeff Brown saying the term lynch in the way in which he did. Because if I did not have it and just simply accuse these individuals, people would have just said it wasn't true because it's so easy to deny the free press. It's so easy to not believe Black voices. It's so easy to just simply dismiss the truth. And so other people could have been whispering around town and people were gossiping around West Philly, apparently, that afternoon. But it was so easy to just simply say it was hearsay. So I got the footage. I got the police sheet. I got the rap sheet and I shared it and provided the context. Of course, the argument has been everybody's playing hot potato and saying that they didn't know. They didn't know. Let it snow, right? They didn't know. I don't believe them. There's too much power in there. Somebody knew something. And even if you didn't want to know, you knew something. You heard it before. You heard it. There's no way. How the fuck did I get all this information in the setting in which I got it? And the moment I got it, I did something active. There's no way. If I was around long enough, I would have probably found out much earlier. But I found it interesting that everybody's claiming they don't know. But the one thing that stood out to me is that, it's just what? So I shared it. The internet blew up. And it's been a lot of talk. And so I'm going to read to you our statement from DA District Attorney Larry Krasner. This is from the campaign. It's an official statement, and I'm reading the statement that was sent to me via email from the campaign on Sunday following my breaking news. Yesterday, as part of DA Larry Krasner's attempt to reach out to voters in every corner of Philadelphia, Larry attended a meeting of the 52nd Democratic Ward with more than a dozen other candidates. Larry was proud to share his achievements and vision with grassroots advocates living in West Philadelphia. While our opponent was not in attendance, we have been told that he was also invited to present before the ward. The campaign was totally unaware at the time that Steve Jones, who had been serving as ward leader, has been convicted of aggravated indecent assault, where the complainant was under the age of 13, as well as related offenses. Jones has a common last name, and the case is being handled by career prosecutors in the office. It is our understanding that none of the other candidates or party officials present were aware of Jones's criminal history. We were in the process of calling for Jones's resignation when we were informed that he had stepped down from his position as ward leader. We're gratified that the situation seems to have been resolved. So, as an update, Stephen Jones resigned following the breaking news. He is no longer the ward leader. Krasner claims that, or says, we don't know, but he said it, that he would have called for this man's resignation and stepping down had he not found out that the stepping down had already taken place. Interesting. Now, here's something that I think is very presumptuous about Krasner in this statement that I have some questions about. The first thing is that he says, while our opponent was not in attendance, we have been told that he was also invited to present before the ward. Okay, who told you that? The committee? How can you confirm that? Because I spoke to the Duggan camp and they had informed me and they've informed the press and they've also put out a statement of their own that basically says that they were not invited to that committee. But that's not your job to actually speak on their behalf, on the behalf of the party, of that ward, the 52nd ward. It's not in your position. Like, why would you do that, right? So then another part that stood out to me was that the campaign was totally unaware at the time that Steve Jones. Now, when you said the campaign, is it the campaign or was it Krasner? Was Krasner not aware? Because if Krasner was aware, why were you there? I think there's some weird word sandwich. I mean, when we're saying the campaign, is this to suggest that Krasner was not aware? Like, I have questions. Because that wording is very interesting to me. The campaign or Krasner, which one was not aware? Very interesting. But nonetheless. So then moving on, another thing that really stood out to me was in this statement, it is our understanding that none of the other candidates or party officials present were aware of Jones's criminal history. How can you speak for those other party officials? How can you speak for those other candidates? How do you know? How do you know? Like, how can you speak on their behalf and say it's our understanding? Why are you caping for them? That's the Democratic politics right here. This is a play. Why are you trying to cover for all of these other entities? Why? Focus on your campaign, Krasner, is my advice. Focus on your campaign, because here's what's going to happen. There's going to be, and hear me very clearly when I tell you this, because if I'm talking this clear and this confident, I am here to tell you all that this is the beginning of a domino fucking effect. Brace yourselves. This is just the beginning. There is going to be an implosion that's going to happen behind this. And this is just the beginning. And if I was Krasner, in my opinion, my honest opinion, I would be speaking about what the fuck I knew as a DA. I would not be spending any time worried about what other party officials know and do. Because let me tell you right now, they're already throwing you under the bus. They're already throwing you under the bus, buddy. Okay? Everybody is going out. It's knives out in the Democratic Party right now. Because everybody's doing a who done it and who knew it. And I'm telling you right now, several of them have contacted me on background and have alleged that Krasner definitely knew. There are ADAs who clearly are in that office who don't like Krasner, don't want Krasner to win, but baby, they are spilling the tea about what Krasner knew about and what he didn't. Now, these are all allegations. Mind you, they're allegations. But what I'm saying is that knives are out. And I say this with a level of certainty because I am sitting on some tea and some information, and it has to be vetted. You know we vet information here. Shit has to be vetted. But there's a lot of people that are going to start telling some stories. There's a lot of people who are going to start naming names, or they're going to have to leave it on the playground. There are a lot of people who are going to raise hell. Now, I'm not saying everybody knew, because I've also heard that some people did not know. But I am not anyone's spokesperson. Okay? And I want to be very clear that anything I write, I post, I investigate is my work. My work alone. A lot of people will assume that because I have friends and even a husband that work in this Philadelphia political system, that you know, I am, they will assume that, I would, that he would tell me things this. Let me tell you something. I don't even get that personal. I don't tell my husband when I break a story. I don't tell my friends when I break a story. I don't tell anybody before I break a story. I don't tell anyone. Okay? I have been in a relationship with my husband since college. I have had friendships with politicians before they were politicians. I have had relationships with people. I don't tell anyone my process. Okay? When I dropped that bomb about the 76ers arena not happening, my husband found out when the world found out. My friends found out when the world found out. And I have made a truce with all of my friends that when it comes to my journalism work, that's off limits. Listen, you got friends. Some of y'all got friends that might be judges or lawyers. They can't tell you the cases they're working on. I have friends that are judges. They don't tell me shit. It's that way with my journalism. Because I respect the fucking process. And so I want to be very clear that nobody outside of my lawyer, outside of my editor, okay, tells me what to post and what not to post. No one do. That's my work. As one elected official once said, I did that. So what we're not going to do is harass, call, berate, investigate, sniff around anyone in my fucking circle about anything that I fucking do. If you want to know something, call me. If you want to know something, reach out. And if you want to have off the record conversation or on background conversation, that is available as well. But I don't share my sources with anyone that is not in my editorial professional process. Elected officials know what I'm talking about. You might have spouses that might want to understand who's doing what in the legislation room, and you don't tell your spouse. I hope you don't. I hope you have some level of a code. But I don't do that. My friends know. I never tell them about anything behind a story I break. They find out like everyone else. Now, of course, the moment I break it, they texting me and they calling me being like, oh my God. But I've never done it. I don't do it. Hell, I barely even tell my sources when the story is going to come out. Okay? So that's my process. And I never leak or expose my sources to the public. I never do. So you'll never know who sent me something. And sometimes you all play these guessing games. You're like, oh, I know who told Ernest about the arena. You will never know who that person is. You think you know who it is. Here's a fun fact. It was not Ryan Boyer, okay? Because a lot of y'all like to say that shit. Oh, I think it was Ryan. It was not Ryan. No, it was not. Because I know y'all like to spread that lie. It was not Kellen White, it was not him. It was no one you would never imagine. How about that? And you know what's funny? Here's what I'll tell you. I purposely will never seek a source or let a source tell me. It's always the person you never expect. It's always the person that you never fucking expect. Okay? When I got the Helen Gim picture, it was from somebody that had nothing to do with politics. You will never know the person. Because what's funny is sometimes the people are the people that's right in bed with the people. Now, that was not the case for Helen Gim, so let me clarify that. But look, that video was filmed at the 52nd Ward gathering. I mean, Never make assumptions. Don't. Never assume. Because I promise you, this city's very small, but it's also very, very interesting. You'll never know. Half the time, it only be campaigns. People always be thinking, oh, this person getting something for a campaign. This person's campaign. It never happens like that. For me, it don't. Now, other people, I can't speak for other people. But for me, I can't tell you that they say, how do you get these sources, Ernest? How do you know this? How did you get this? I've been covering this shit for over 10 years. When you've built a rapport with people, when you've built relationships, when people know that you're going to do right by them, they feel safe to tell you things that you would never expect them to do. I have a reputation of protecting my sources. I have a reputation of doing the vetting and doing the processes. Even when it can be uncomfortable, even when people don't want it to be said, it is never about comforting the afflictor. It's never been about that for me. And so you got to understand that when you have been respected and people know, even people who don't agree with me all the time, they will say, you know what? Hella haywire, he is fair. He keeps that same energy across the board. Like I said, Monday I'm overrated, Tuesday on my day. It will depend on the day. Today there are progressives who like Krasner that hates me and will say, see, I told you he's after these progressives. But they were the same people that said, you know what, Ernest, you was right. You stood by. Good work on the 76ers. Like, I know how this works. I've done this and I know how it works. It's so fun because some of the same people that was kissing my ass this whole week because I was in Oxford, telling me I'm a great journalist and I'm so good and you fight the good fight, I'm proud of you, are the same people behind my fucking back talking shit about me. Yeah, I saw the screenshots. Some of you all talking shit, always talking shit, you know? And it's like, and it's crazy. Like some of the people that was talking shit about me during the 76ers arena, talking about some, oh, he's lying, right? He's crazy. He ain't told the truth. You know he made this up, right? I don't believe him, right? About the 76ers arena. You know that those are the same people that later this week, this weekend was in the group chats being like, oh, Ernest did his thing. It's like confirmation bias is a motherfucker. Like, you all only like me when I say things you like. That's why I don't trust any of you motherfuckers. Like, I don't trust none of these people because they're so wishy-washy. I'm on the side of the truth. They're like, what side you on? The truth. Wherever the fuck the truth is, that's what the side I'm on. Some of you all are not on the side of the truth all the time. You are on whatever side works for you. And sometimes lies work for you. Can I get an amen today? Can I get pass me my offering plate? Because I just said a motherfucking word. Some of y'all are not on the side of the truth all the time. Some of y'all are on the side of a lie because the lie benefits you. Some of y'all don't even want to know the truth because to know the truth means that you're going to have to separate yourself from motherfuckers that you're benefiting from that are predators. Shame. And you know what's crazy? There are some people that are more upset at me about this situation than they actually are about Krasner or anybody else. There's people mad that I reported the story rather than mad at, okay, let me put this in context. There are some people that claim that they do not know or did not know that Steve Jones was, a pedophile. See, I can say he's a pedophile because he's convicted. Y'all been running around here accusing Drake, saying certified pedophile, thousands of y'all saying a minor, and this man has never been charged or convicted, right? If y'all can do that for they not like us, y'all gonna let me rock on saying what I gotta say about motherfucking Steve Jones. It's unfortunate, it's uncomfortable, but that's what the fuck he is. Convicted. I believe that girl, that young black girl, that minor, 10 to 11 years old. Disgusting. I have questions. Like, why is this man's bail not revoked? Why is he still amongst us? Why is his bail not revoked. And my whole thing is that if they tried to revoke his bail, wouldn't that mean Krasner's people would have known about this man then? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they didn't know. I mean, look at Leonard Hill. Not to compare him to pedophilia, because that's not what happened, okay? He's not a pedophile, okay? But he has done some things that people felt like he got a little slap on the wrist for doing what was considered a violent crime. I don't know, maybe because he was Michael Hill's brother. I don't know, right? Was it preferential treatment? I just think it's just too many weird circumstances where these circumstances become politically convenient for Krasner. I'm just going to be very observant. And I guess this is my way of telling you all, because you was asking, I guess I am covering the DA's race, if that wasn't clear now. Because it looks like, once again, a black journalist has to come and do the work. Like, what are you all doing in these newsrooms? My goodness. I've not been in a newsroom in a long time. I've been, I work for publications, but I've been, in my own, I just don't understand, like, how, I don't know, like, you guys got all this money, these budgets, these teams, these editors, and I just keep scooping you. Talent is talent, I guess, But yeah, Black journalists matter. And now more than ever, in this era that we're in, we need to support diverse journalists as doing this work for real, for real. We cannot continue to rest our laurels on statements, mediocrities, and everything else. So I did receive a statement, a big statement from the Dugan campaign had put out a statement in the public on social media. I want to be able to look at this. I'm going to read it verbatim like I did with Krasner's, because everybody's saying fair and balanced. Let me pull this up. So this is coming strictly from the Dugan camp. This is the statement they have released on Sunday. Quote, and I'm just quoting. On Saturday, February 22nd, District Attorney Larry Krasner proudly stood at a political event next to a convicted child predator, 52nd Ward Leader Stephen Jones. Just 12 days ago, Krasner's office secured a guilty verdict against Jones on 2 felony counts of sexual assault of a minor. These are facts. In Krasner's campaign statement, his excuse for not knowing that Jones is a common last name and suggests that Larry does not really know Mr. Jones, that is a lie. The statement also said Judge Dugan was invited to the 52nd Ward meeting. That is another lie. Judge Pat Dugan and his staff were never contacted or invited to the 52nd Ward meeting. Over the past 2 weeks, only select candidates received text invitations. Jones had already made up his mind. He was going to endorse and support his good friend Larry Krasner for a third term, just as he did in 2021 and 2017. Larry Krasner stood smiling behind a convicted child predator, a man his own senior prosecutors had been trying in court since September 2023. Did he not recognize him? The DA in charge of every major case in the city failed to notice a politically connected sex offender standing next to him? Or did he know exactly who he was and chose to stand there anyway? Either answer should terrify you. And this raises our other questions. Did the senior prosecutor ask to revoke the bail? If the judge denied the revocation of bail, did the DOA file an appeal? Was there quid pro quo to let Stephen Jones wait for his sentencing at home in exchange for political support? Is the district attorney's office inept or just so broken and dysfunctional that they don't even communicate internally about a high-profile case being prosecuted over the last 17 months? But this isn't just about a single photo op. We've seen this office fail victims time and again with zero communication or compassion. Now that same failure means survivors and their families had to watch a convicted abuser stand shoulder to shoulder with the very man elected to protect them. And for what? To try and win an election? This is deplorable and inexcusable. For 7 years, his administration has failed the most vulnerable Philadelphians. We can do better. We must do better. These victims deserve so much better. Being Philadelphia's district attorney requires good judgment. He either failed to notice or didn't care while chasing 4 more years. Either way, that's unacceptable. Quote, I spent my career making tough calls on the bench and in the military. Here's an easy one. We don't campaign with convicted predators. We don't shake their hands. We don't accept their endorsements, Judge Pat Dugan said. Dugan added, quote, nearly 2,900 homicides, 10,000 shootings, a 70% case withdrawal rate at times, the lowest gun conviction rates in decades. Violent crime is up over 50%. Retail theft is up 60%. Businesses shuttered. Wawa, Rite Aid, CVS, Macy's, all gone. Workers left to fend for themselves. These aren't accidents. They're consequences. And they all lead back to Larry Krasner and his policies in his office. Philadelphia deserves a DA who puts safety and integrity first. That's why I'm running, to restore trust, enforce the law, and give this city the DA it deserves. End of the statement from Pat Dugan. Now, okay. First of all, passionate statement. I mean, he really is hammering Krasner down on this Stephen Jones situation, which any candidate, I mean, it is a right, strong message. Now, at the end, I was sitting there looking like, Wawa, Rite Aid, City, CVS, and Macy's. Like, is that really Krasner's fault? I mean, that's a strong reach in my opinion. I mean, I observe both candidates. I feel like that's a little bit of a reach because some of this is connected to just a lot of stuff going on in Market East in general. Market East is just not doing well in general. I don't really necessarily know if that's connected to Krasner, but the crime argument that they try to connect is just sometimes like a little bit of a drag because in some cases, crime has been going down since the Sherrell Parker administration. And I've always argued that the Dugan campaign, I said this way before Krasner announced, I said the Dugan campaign's like rhetoric around crime is very touchy. I mean, the homicides, the gun violence part, the retail theft has gone up. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to hear what those businesses will say is the reason why they're shutting down. Inflation could be part of the reason, but it's a lot of rhetoric being said. He's going to have to answer to that and make that correlation. For me, I think some of it's a reach in that department. But I do think that there are fair points about the questions asked around holding his own, the DOA, which is the DAO. I'm sorry, the DAO. I keep saying DOA. DAO, District Attorney's Office, DAO. I keep saying DOA. It's DAO. And questions around holding that office accountable. There are some good questions, and Krasner has to answer them. So that's that. Now, this week's Ask Ernest, of course, is about Chubby Chicks. I got so much to say. Now, by now, a lot of you already know about the Chubby Chicks situation, but I do want to provide some context. So, Chubby Chicks is owned by a woman named Shakira. She is a business owner. She's owned the Chubby Chicks brand for quite some time. She had a location in Jersey, Germantown, and she recently opened up a location in Center City. This location is on 11th and Walnut Street. This is over there between Scoop DeVille and Hilo Taco, which, as you all know, I'm a big fan of Scoop DeVille. And I'm also, I love me some Hilo Taco. I did a whole review about them on the podcast a couple of months ago. They're very good people, very good business owners. And there's an important reason why I'm mentioning this because of some things that were said. That area is pretty much like neighborhood. They're on that neighborhood strip. They're right across the street from the Forest Theater. Lots of business come over there typically. Scoop DeVille's been there for a good minute. Hilo Taco's been doing pretty decent. Really great tacos, and they've been doing fine. So it's really interesting that a lot of put that location there would set this business on what appears to be for an opportunity for success. One would think. Now, the restaurant opened, I want to say late December, early January. I remember covering it for Eater. It was one of my last best new restaurants in Philly list. And I remember including Chubby Chicks in that lineup because it was very new. And I remember including it because it was a Black-owned business and, it was a woman-owned business and I really wanted to support. So I was aware of them, aware of their food and everything like that very, very early on. So I think they had maybe opened around December, but they didn't have too much business because of the holidays. But I have tried their food, so I will give you my review about the food in a minute. But they were fairly new. So, okay, some things that I can share, some context that I knew. There's some information I knew about Chubby Chicks after I had talked a little bit about them on my socials. When I had included them on the lineup of announcements of new restaurants that opened in Philly, there were some things I had heard about them prior to the big incident the big viral moment that just took place this month. I just want to just put that context there. You hear things, but you just go, maybe they changed. Maybe they changed. Maybe things are different. I don't want to, just jump on new business, trying to start a new area. I just pay attention. Some of the things I had heard, allegedly, and even reviews online have expressed them, that there was a sense of bad customer service, that there was a low infrastructure, that it was understaffed, and sometimes that impacted the quality and the timing of the food, that the food was hit or miss. Sometimes it would be really good, sometimes it was not, that the hospitality was very, very bad. And these are allegations. Some people have had different experiences. Some people have said good things, but I'm just telling you what was told to me once I talked about them. And this is way before. People have said that the owner, was not necessarily the most polite and the most professional. And there are video proof, because, people want to see proof. There's video proof where I did see an instance of her on camera. There's a customer that is pretty mild-mannered that's, going up to them saying, hey, my portions, my food. I'm looking at the portions. It was a fried grits dish, but the portion size is really small, even though the price is she's got some, steep prices for breakfast food. And so there were people that were sharing, saying, hey, I feel like this individual's man, this black man, and the owner is black and all that. It was like, hey, my portion is small, is all I get. They're like, oh, that's all you get. And she just really was very dismissive. Like, I'm the owner. I'm the owner. It's like, oh, well, that's how you're the owner, and this is a customer that is sharing a very mannered, fair, concern, and this is how you are responding to them. It wasn't very nice. And the video has been circulating all over the internet, but I had already heard about this. I'd already knew about some of this stuff, but it wasn't necessarily like, for me, I didn't feel the need to just broadcast it, because the business just started. Apparently that clip was years ago at another location. So some stuff you just let slide, right? You just say, okay. So here's what happens. Last weekend, Dr. Afia, who is a influencer, food influencer and travel agent guide, who does a lot of work around black travel, black business. She's all things black business. She's like a black business ambassador on social media. And so normally her stance is anything black and black owned. She's a cheerleader for it, and she hypes it up, and people go up for it. There have been times when I've looked at some of the reviews and things, and I'm just like, do you like it because you're getting it for free, or do you really like it? And let me be clear, it's no shade, okay? Because influencers will get things comped, and critics and things. There's no shade to that. But sometimes, I have a rule of thumb that if I don't personally like something, I don't post it. But sometimes I wonder, do she really like it or not? Because sometimes she'll review something, I'll look in the comments, I'll look, and a lot of people are saying that was trash, and they weren't good, and this was this, and this was this. And I've just seen a couple of those experiences where I'm just like, So, for example, Chubby Chicks, I didn't promote Chubby Chicks except letting people know it was a new restaurant in Center City. So it was new. I wasn't going to review it. I just basically promoted that it was a new restaurant to check out. Now, would Chubby Chicks have been, if I was still at Eater as an editor, would Chubby Chicks made any of my lists? I mean, based on the things that I've experienced since, the answer would have probably not, but only time would have told. But at this point, I'm not necessarily crazy about it. But nonetheless, Dr. Fia, who has a wide following, thousands of followers on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, she posts that we need to support this black-owned business. And she tells this story of the owner of Chubby Chicks and how apparently neighboring businesses, this is important to note, that neighboring businesses in the area was giving Shakira a hard time, and that she had legal problems and woes, structural things, and she's been struggling and she needs to get help with sales, and that this has been distressful for her. Apparently, there was dead rats being left outside her door. Outside the door of the business, there were pictures, and that there was flooding in the building, and it was being caused, and there was lies from somebody. There was neighbors, and there was people nearby lying, trying to get her business shut down. It was just a lot. And the narrative, okay, based off of this narrative, right? Because we're going to call it a narrative, and you're going to know why in a minute. But based on this narrative, you would have the thought that, oh my goodness, Black business is coming into this predominantly this Center City area, this white area, this very affluent area in Center City, that they don't want this Black business here. This Black owner is being harassed by these people, and they're trying to crush the competition. So that's like the narrative, right? And so she's like, sales have been slow, business has been slow. And so the answer that everybody, that Afia had was, support, I think it was a GoFundMe or support money, provide pro bono resources, but buy, we got to stock it up and support her and support this business. But everything was pushed. A lot of the conversation and rhetoric and the call to action from Dr. Afia was rooted in capitalism. And I have so many thoughts about that, but I want to break this down. It was a lot about buy this and go support and spread the word and promote. But it was just like, in my mind, I just was never in that space. Like, my first mindset wasn't go buy food. It was, we need to get some justice. Like, injustice is not in the pocketbook. Like, the first thought is the buy. I was like, is she safe? Like, is she safe? Like, I don't know. Is she safe? Was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, in my mind, it wasn't buy my shit. It was, is she safe? Has she put in an incident report? Has she contacted, the city? Like, she's in Center City in a very affluent area. There's a Chamber of Commerce, an African American Chamber of Commerce. Her city council representative in that area is Mark Squilla. Hell, she got Ben Waxman, who was a state rep. These are very big players. Can we point her? Before we ask people to give money for resources and pro bono, like, why are we asking the community to put out money? There are city government agencies, programs, and people that investigate cases, provide resources, investigate, do all of this stuff. Why is the ask to spend money first? So that's like a little red flag to me. I just was like, why are we acting like this is not a Center City business? Why are we acting like she's not already an establishment? Like, there are city resources that are here. I'm talking legal. I'm talking, investigations, all kind of shit. Like, why are we not addressing that? So that was my first red flag. And so I got under the comments under Dr. Afia's post because, I stand on business. Okay, I don't run from anybody. And I asked the question. That comment got over 500 likes under that comment. So y'all was rocking with what I was saying. I was like, I like that we want to support and we want to support a Black-owned business. I ain't telling y'all don't support it. But, like, can we do some other things? Because this business needs some things. So as somebody who has covered shit like this, I call it the Keith Lee effect. And I sensed, based on what I had heard about her restaurant, her infrastructure, allegedly, that this was not the right community response to help this business. That spending money and buying it like it's Walmart or something was not the answer to this problem. And so people were like, oh, you need to go. First of all, y'all don't tell me what to do. That's one, okay? But second, when you got to understand me. Most stuff outside of this Stephen Jones political stuff does not shake me. I've seen a variation of it. I've seen something related to it. Like, most stuff don't ever have me going, oh, wow, I never knew this. I just felt like I've seen this before. And I call it the Keith Lee effect, which is basically Keith Lee goes to a very small, humble restaurant that is like a little small restaurant. and they call Keith Lee and they say, Keith Lee, we need your help. They beg for the attention. They want the attention. And then Keith Lee goes, and then the business implodes. The sales are over the top. The demands are over the top. The stress on the workers, the exhaustion, the lack of preparation, the resources, the quality of the food, all of it gets ruined. I've seen that shit happen in Philly. I think about Black Dragon. I think about how Black Dragon still exists, and they're doing fine. They're moderate, okay? Black Dragon is still rocking and rolling, okay? Let me be very clear. It's still open. You should go support them. But Black Dragon, when they first opened, wanted so badly. Chef Kurt, good guy. No shade to Kurt. But he wanted so much press. He wanted so much clout. He wanted so much for that business, as he should. But the sad part was the infrastructure was not ready for the level of downpour attention and press. I mean, I gave the exclusive coverage, the Inquirer, Philly Mac. He got all this press and hype and influence. I mean, and it just got overwhelming. They ran out of stuff so fast. The lines were too long. People was in the heat. I mean, people was just stressed. The quality was a little slippery. And reviews really began to come in, and they weren't necessarily that good. And I don't think it was because the recipes weren't good. I just feel like the chefs were just so overworked that it's really hard to maintain consistent quality under that much pressure. And so for me to review as a food critic, I typically wait 3 months after some hype dies down a little bit to finally get a chance to go and try the food. Now, if I get in and I get a chance to go before the hype, or if I get a preview before the restaurant opens. But I like to try to get like some space to really try the food, because a lot of times you'll find yourself in a situation where the beginning of the hype, the quality might be put off, So I think it's very important for people to do that. But I think with Chubby Chicks, it just was crazy because the answer was spend money. And so what I thought was really weird was that there were a lot of elected officials that were going and taking pictures and trying to one up each other and do reels and do all this shit to promote it. And I just was like, do y'all have other ways to help this woman? I mean, because if this was a white business, we wouldn't be saying get more customers. We would be saying, let's get to the bottom of who harassed you. Let's file an incident report. Let's actually get you some pro bono services. Let's actually get you some service. Like, I just feel like there was so much bye, right? So what happens over the past week is that it gets to the point where she can't hold reservations. It gets to a point where she has to close down earlier than she needs to. She can't take any more people. They have to tell everybody no more people. It gets to the point where she has to have family members come in to extra staff this. It comes to a point where they're running out of food, even if they get 4 times the amount of food. It's getting to a point that at one point she literally could not serve on plates and dishes anymore. And I think a lot of that was because they couldn't get a dishwasher to clean up all those dishes in time. So literally everything were to-go containers, even people in the restaurants. People are trying to tell her how to sell and market her brand. Everybody's an expert, but no one's an expert. It's a hot ass fucking mess. And the downpour has been very much exhaustion, to the point there people are like, I'm not even coming. I'm not coming. There's influencers that have tried to come and they're not getting anywhere. So they're just telling people like, don't go. It's too long. It's too much. And it just seems like there's going to be like a fluke where this was a moment. And because of the experience, most people don't think the food is that good. I've heard mixed reviews. A lot of people are just not impressed. But I'm also thinking, like, did you all really think it was going to be that good given how much you crowded her? She's been asking for grace, but I'm just like, did you give that customer grace in that video? But I'm not going to be shady. But she's been asking, rightfully so, for grace in her service. And I do sympathize with her with the service overwhelming. But I say all this to say that this was to be expected, that this is the Keith Lee effect. And that this is less about her and her service and her practices. My thoughts about her food, to be honest, I feel like it is a lower tier brunchaholics. Brunchaholics being better, but I feel like this is a lower tier brunchaholics. I also want to add context here. Because I think that there's other issues that came up, and I think there's time to now investigate and interrogate some of those claims. So for starters, Dr. Afia and others like I don't know, that clout chaser influencer that now wants to really, really be supporting black-owned businesses. But if you look at him, he doesn't barely ever really support black-owned business. I don't know if he supported another black-owned restaurant since her. But that guy, Brand Flakes, that's his name. He wanted to jump on the bandwagon. A lot of people wanted to jump on the bandwagon. All of a sudden, white folks found a black-owned restaurant they wanted to support. Now, I will give Cass in the City credit. Now, Cass in the City has always supported black-owned businesses. I will give her that credit. Her attitude is a little messy, and I don't care much for her attitude sometimes. But, maybe she's changed. I have not met her or spoken to her since she's become a mother. But before she was a mother, she was very, But maybe motherhood has changed her, but I will give her credit. She's always supported black-owned business. Now, my boy Josh, me and Dr. Gio, Lit Brothers have always supported black-owned businesses. Okay, so we ain't gonna do that over here. But for Brand Flakes, I was like, oh, you trying to work on your image because of that old mega hat situation. We didn't forget about that, but there was satire, right? So now you got to find a black friend. I got it. Okay. So he went and he spread misinformation and said that neighboring businesses were giving Shakira and her business a hard time. Now he got more followers than Dr. Afia, and because of that post, there was harassment at Scoop DeVille and Halo Taco. People started flooding Halo Taco's Google and giving them bad reviews, calling them racist and slandering them. And the same thing happened with Scoop DeVille. And you know what? Shakira had to get on Instagram, and Dr. Fee and all these people had to clarify it wasn't them. It was actually residents. First of all, why hasn't any... Oh, that's right. None of these people are journalists. I forgot. They're not journalists, but they want to do my job. They think they can do what I do because they got a lot of followers. You can have a lot of followers, but it doesn't mean you're educating them. Message. My whole thing is, had Shakira went to a journalist, which maybe she didn't want to because she knew journalists were going to ask her questions that clout-chasing influencers were not, because sometimes influencers are just trying to save the day or be heroic or get attention or go viral or do whatever. And so they really like the attention of it all, that they just run off of impulse. But they don't do due diligence, right? Due diligence would have been, when you say harassment, one, who is the harassment? Who's doing the harassment? Shakira clarifies there were no neighboring businesses that did it, that it was actually residents or a resident or whatever. Now, my question is, if you knew there were residents, I look at that property, right, y'all, because I did look at that property. If you look at that street, right, it's very clear that there were distinctive properties. Now I'm hearing that allegedly it's a particular person or a particular roof that has the complaints. So my whole thing is that if you have a suspicion of who you think it is and you know who it's not, then why were you so vague? And why have you filed like a serious complaint and contacted some really serious people to really get at who you might think is doing it, rather than implicating potentially all of these other businesses that have been doing good work? Like when I heard about Halo Taco, I was like, them people in that location, they don't bother anybody. They're good people. Scoop DeVille too. Scoop DeVille been around for a long time. They ain't got to question no competition. I just thought that was just baffling. But then also narratives that I want to also clarify. So everybody's been like, oh, business been slow for her, da-da-da-da. I took a step back and said, as a journalist who's covered restaurants, January is a slow month for a lot of restaurants, because y'all know why. It's too goddamn cold outside to go to restaurants. Second of all, she's located in Center City, and her hours is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Baby, Center City folks mostly go out to eat at night. Most of them got jobs, like jobs. So they don't got time to go stop by and get some breakfast or brunch. Most of those people are working for the city. Them city jobs are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Ain't nobody got time to go to lunch. So I just think it's very interesting that when I looked at the infrastructure, her business is not set up for her to get that kind of business like that. Because to be honest, her hours are so early in the day. Plus, it's January, business slow. So it had me wondering to myself, has she not factored that logistics with the kind of business she has? Like if she was in Baltimore Avenue with some retired folks, like Cedar Park Cafe, she could get some business. Booker's is doing pretty well over there because they have an all-day cafe. But the fact that you don't really have any evening dinner or anything major, I don't really see how you could do that. But again, logistical stuff. Like, was your business slow because of these allegations of discrimination? Because no one knew about your business. And, I guess, paying for PR, because paying influencers, I don't know. I wonder if Dr. Phil was paid to post the content. I mean, maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. A lot of influencers out here get paid for their content to promote their content. But I just feel like there was just not enough inquiry and investigation into what was driving these things. It just all seemed weird to me. That there was not enough interrogation. Everybody just ran with a narrative. It fit a certain box, and that drove it. I know there's people out here assuming that there might be some stuff that's not true about this. Now, let me tell you what I will say. That could be a possibility, given what all the stuff we know now. Is it really that neighborhood is being racist towards this business? Or maybe it's one person with a personal vendetta. I think about Mark Lamont Hill, and when Mark Lamont Hill had a bunch of people busting his windows consistently. I remember people were like, "Oh my goodness, they're trying to run Mark out of the neighborhood. They're racist. They're this. They don't want a black-owned bookstore to thrive." And I kept saying to myself, "That's Germantown. There's a lot of black-owned businesses, and they're not getting those similar type of experiences over there like that. Maybe there are some, but I was like, this just seems really weird to me." And so I thought to myself, Mark Lamont Hill knows a lot of people, and he probably has some haters. And so I was like, maybe that's a personal situation. Maybe it's personal. That person that kept throwing those bricks. I mean, maybe it was a personal thing versus something that was rooted in some type of conspiracy theory. I don't know. I just had very, nuanced thoughts about it. I just had very nuanced thoughts about that whole ordeal. Just did not go through my smell test the way I would have anticipated. So, there's that. To me, I get a sense that maybe the person putting the rat, if it is a real person, because we don't know, no names have been reported, we don't really know much, but allegedly, right? If this person put this rat on there, whatever like that, was doing it, I wonder if this was just very personal, like this person just there was something that they have with this particular person compared to everything else. I just feel like it just seems more inside ball than what it was blown up to be initially. Because in my mind, at first the narrative was that it was just everybody over there was hating on this black woman who was starting a business. And now it seems like she's trying to scale that back and say that her neighbors is great, don't do this to them or whatever. Because honestly, it was given defamation. It was given a potential lawsuit. Because, you're accusing somebody of something that's not true. And it's hurting their business. I mean, they could sue for defamation. I mean, it's very clear that their business has suffered and that the way in which this was said to cause harm because of the narrative that was created. Like, in the name of trying to build support for your business, other businesses have been harmed. And it's like, if they weren't never them, you should have clarified that from the jump. You should have from the very beginning said, y'all, I want peace. It wasn't these people, blah, blah, blah. Because anytime I, get in some drama or get in a situation, I make it clear. Because I know how y'all do. Some of my followers, some of my listeners. Y'all go ham for me. But I be making sure that I clarify, things that I know for fact versus just letting anybody get it. If I don't know and no one's called me and told me otherwise, I can't say anything, right? But if you tell me something and you say, Ernest, I want you to know this from me, and I need to tell you this, and you're telling me this, and you're respecting my work as a journalist, you're providing receipts of clarity, then I'll stand corrected, duly noted, whatever. But when people don't tell me nothing, or they just passing lies and bullshit, that's when I go, I can't tell you how many times people have told me shit off the record that was a straight up lie. And they just wanted to set me up for failure. And I went back and I vetted some shit and found out that shit was a lie. You think I believe anything they told me after that? You will never know. You will never know. But people go to the press. A lot of people spread rumors and say stuff just so they can be able to get ahead. I tell people, put a name on it. Speak it out with your chest. If you can't do that, it's always a red flag for me. Okay? Okay. So in closing, and wrapping this portion up before I move on to my next parts, I want to be very clear that for me, my solutions from this: Black-owned businesses, utilize your resources, contact the African American Chamber of Commerce, contact and know the elected official in your neighborhood. Okay? If you open a black business, a black-owned business, like in West Philly, right, in Baltimore Avenue, I can tell you that Almond Brown, Rick Kajewski, Jamie Gautier knows bookers very well. If the Syfaxes have a problem with their business or something, they need some communication or something, they know their elected officials, okay? If you're a black-owned business, no matter where you are, you should know your state rep. You should know your elected official and city council. You should know these players and you should know your chamber. If anything happens, you need support, go to them first. Don't run to these influencers, okay? Don't pay them. Don't beg them, because here's the thing. Once that shit goes out to the universe, you cannot control what can happen, how it goes. As somebody who's going viral many times, when I first went viral in my life, I was not prepared for what came my way. I was just like a deer in headlights. It was just wild, okay? But after a while, I began to practice certain practices. I started to realize every phone call does not deserve an immediate answer. Do not talk to the press before you talk to your lawyer. Do not contact your team, anybody you work with, your spouse, your friends. Just contact your people to make sure that they are supporting you through this moment in time. Talk to experts and people that can help you. Ignore advice from the random dude who ain't doing nothing for you. Do not confide and tell all your business to everybody. Be smart about who you let into your life during your time of virality. Because when you go viral, there's a lot of people that gonna pop out the woodwork and they're just nosy. And I have always learned in my times of virality to never be real buddy with the newbies, the bandwagoners, the ones who jump on the band. Who you at? What you want, right? Be very wary of that. And lastly, try not to capitalize financially off of it. Don't grift as much as you can. Like, try not to turn support into money. People will naturally support you. People will naturally come out. But don't center it on capitalism, because that's always a red flag. And those are my thoughts on that. Maybe more information will come, but as of now, that's my stance on it. I'm not telling you not to go to the restaurant. I am not going personally. It's not my cup of tea. But I'm not telling you not to go. Maybe her customer service skills are better. But quite frankly, I think she needs to really get serious about hiring more full-time staff. I honestly think she should have just shut the restaurant down for 3 days to just let things heal. I think she should have shut the restaurant down for 3 days, get her staff onboarded, get everybody fully ready, and then let the work do itself. I think the fact that she tried to keep going in the midst of all this controversy and attention, I feel like she should have just actually, when she got all that money, that downpour money those first weeks, I would have just said, look, we got to take a break. We got to reset. Because she made hella money, hella bank those first days. I know it. I mean, the catering, it's been money. She should have stopped it literally for the rest of the week and said, look, we need to regain. She need to get her staff together, train her staff, get her kitchen together, get a bunch of food on deck. Because even Chef Kurt with Black Dragon, he had to stop it for a day just to recuperate and get everything together before he went back out there. And so I just think if I was her, she should have did that. And I also think she should have just really taken some time to just really calm the heat. It was just too much heat. I feel like every day she had to put statements. It just got too wild. And get somebody, like a comms person or somebody, to spell check your shit so you can look more professional. I'm just saying, we just as a community to provide this level, like, resources and things. And let me say, it's not my job to do it all the time, to be honest, because some people don't reach out to me. I mean, I'm around, like, go to journalists, talk to people, get some very earned media press before you go viral. Like, make sure you got your story together. Make sure everybody who supports you understand the facts. Like, just make sure it's just done so that people don't have to keep going back, correcting the record and all that. Because nobody wants to. Because once you start doing that, it just hurts credibility. It just hurts a lot. And I've seen it all. I've been there myself. It's just a lot. And so just make sure you just do this a certain solid way. That's just my advice on that. So moving on. Movies. The SAG Awards, y'all. I was all up in the SAG Awards. I watched on Netflix on Sunday night. What are some suspense? Like Oscars is next Sunday, y'all. We are finally at Oscar Sunday. Some major twists and turns, some major shockers, some major moments. So let's get into Best Supporting Actor. Kieran Culkin won. That was no shocker. We all knew he was gonna win. Whoop-de-doo. Love him, but he still won, right? No shock there. But to be honest with you all, after watching A Real Pain and Apprentice, I really wish Jeremy Strong would have won for Best Supporting Actor, because honestly, that was a real supporting actor role. I really think Kieran Culkin should have won should have shot his shot for Best Lead Actor, even though he wasn't going to win, but he probably would have been a nominee for sure. Best Supporting Actress went to Zoe Saldana. She's winning the Oscar, y'all. I mean, people have tried to act like maybe Ariana Grande has a chance. She doesn't. She's winning the Oscar. She's taking the Oscar, y'all. That is, Zoe Saldana has done it. She's had a clean sweep. Her and Kieran Culkin have had a clean sweep this entire cycle. The two of them are going straight to the Oscars. They're both winning. They've won everything. I mean, the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice Award. They've won everything. So, for Best Actress, there was a little shakeup. Honora, Mikey Madison won the BAFTA for Best Lead Actress, which got everybody shook. Everyone was like, oh shit, there might be a little shakeup, okay? So everybody was a little worried. But then all of a sudden, something happened. What was that happened? Oh yeah, the big one. What was the big one? Oh, Demi Moore won at SAG. So even though Demi Moore did not win at BAFTA, Mikey Madison won. Demi Moore, for The Substance, won at SAG. So there is a possibility that, well, for one, Demi Moore, it's going to be between Demi Moore and Mikey Madison. But Demi Moore has been swiping everything other than that BAFTA award. And so I kind of still got my bets placed on Demi Moore. I think she has the better narrative. Mikey Madison having one win was cute, but I still think that in the end, Demi Moore is going to win the Oscar for Best Actress. Now, Best Actor, there was a massive gagging shakeup. So up until this point, Adrien Brody has won everything. He won the BAFTA, the Critics' Choice. He won the Golden Globe. He's won all these major awards at this point. And it looked like he was going to do a clean sweep up to Oscar. But Timothée Chalamet won a major award. He won Best Actor for his role as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. What a shocker. So to see him win, I was like, oh, his speech was so good. Mind you, Oscar voting is over, so it's not going to sway people, but maybe who knows how the tide turned. But the Brutalists did not win. Adrien Brody didn't win. So I'm wondering now, is there a real race between Timothée Chalamet and, Adrien Brody? If I was a betting man, I would still say that Adrien Brody is going to get it, but you just never know. The SAG is a big deal. The actors really found Timothée Chalamet's performance the most compelling one out of Adrien Brody. We'll see. But the big gag of the night, Conclave won Best Ensemble. That is the equivalent. The SAG afterwards is the Screen Actors Guild Award, so it's the acting guilds. For them to win Best Ensemble is nothing to sleep on. That could be a precursor to the Oscar for Best Picture. Ladies and gentlemen, we might have a real face-off. So Conclave won Best Picture at BAFTA, and it won the SAG for Best Ensemble. Nobody thought Conclave was going to win. Everyone was assuming that Wicked was going to potentially win, and some people even thought that Honora was going to win. The fact that, I don't even think The Brutalist was even nominated. So what that tells me is that a lot of people are really still rooting for Conclave. Like, Conclave has the support of the Actors Guild and BAFTA, the British International people. So let's play with the logic. If you think that the BAFTA could get Mikey Madison it for Honora, then you should not underestimate the BAFTA for SAG. After SAG and BAFTA, you cannot, So what I'm trying to tell you all is that I think the front runner for Best Picture is three-way. It is between, at first we thought it was Amelia Perez was going to be other one, but Amelia Perez is out this race. It's not happening, okay? The only thing that Amelia Perez is going to probably get is Best Song and Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana. Maybe another category, but those are the two I see it getting for sure, and the rest is up in the air, even though it got 13 nominations. But you can blame Sophia Carla Gaston for that. Sophia Carla Gaston. You can blame her for that, okay? And also the other controversies with Amelia Perez, but I digress. But nonetheless, I do think that there is a really great chance. I'm very excited about these performances. I'm over the moon. I'm really excited about Conclave. Now, if I had to choose between Conclave, The Brutalist, and Honora, my pick would be Conclave. And how timely is it that the Pope Francis, some people are claiming he's on his deathbed. Some people think he might potentially pass away. There's already been rumors on the internet flying around that he's dead, but he's not. Okay, that's not been confirmed. But he's in very critical condition. And the likelihood of him passing could create a Conclave-esque experience in real time. So the timeliness of that coupled with that, I just don't know. Conclave is just giving me the same type of Oscar win that Spotlight had, where everybody was like, Spotlight, or Coda, or Green Book. It got that Green Book Spotlight shocker where you're like, what? It just has that for me. And I feel like Conclave is just it's seductive, it's provocative, but it's like the one film that I feel like everybody likes in the canon. Like I feel some of these movies are polarizing. Like A Complete Unknown, not everybody's feeling that. The Substance is polarizing. Honora, some people like it, some people think it's overrated. It's a good movie, but I think it's a little overrated in my opinion. The Brutalist is too fucking long, and I think people are like, it is a good film, but I think people just are tired of like those types of period type Oscar rated films. So I just think Conclave has an interesting, compelling aspect of it. I think it's going to win Best Adapted Screenplay, and I think it's going to win Best Picture. I don't know about the other categories, but there's a chance. And I think if we're spreading love, if I was to guess about Best Director, maybe Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, then you were like, okay, well, what is Honora going to get? Maybe Honora is going to get Best Original Screenplay for Sean Baker. But watch out, because The Real Pain might get that. But I could see The Real Pain getting inside. Like, the Oscars can spread the love across the board. So in my mind, spreading the love means, okay, The Substance gets Best Actress. A Real Pain gets Best Supporting Actor. Amelia Perez gets Best Song and Best Supporting Actress. Adrian Brody gets Best Actor. Best Director goes to Brady Corbet, the director of The Brutalist. Original Screenplay can go to Honora, right? So Honora can get some love in the bigger categories. Adapted will go to Conclave, so it can get a little bit more love. And then editing and other categories, it may spread out, but I just feel like the Oscars can spread a lot of love. I don't think one film is going to dominate everything this year, because there's a lot of good films this year, to be honest. In my opinion. So, moving on, The Roots Picnic in music. People have had mixed reactions about The Roots Picnic. I think it's okay. I am a little underwhelmed, to be honest. I am a little underwhelmed by some of the selections. Some of them just got me a little, just like, they're not horrible, but they're also not like, mouth dropping. So D'Angelo with The Roots is the headliners. These are the headliners. D'Angelo with The Roots, Meek Mill. Why is he a headliner? That's just so random. Anyway, I guess because he's from Philly, but that's not a headliner to me. Lenny Kravitz, pretty good. Under them, on the next bill, you got Glorilla, you got Miguel, you got Tim's, you got Lotto, not bad. You got Kaytranada, which is pretty stellar too. Now, you also got this period of this J period live mixtape with Black Thought, Pusha T, and 2 Chainz. But I don't know if that's a performance or that's something else. But that just seemed really interesting. Then you have Jeezy, which I'm excited about. Jeezy, like, ooh, Jeezy. Okay. Then you got Adam Blackstone featuring Jagged Edge, but it seems like they blinked out somebody's name. So if you go to the program, you look at the program, they look like they like covered something under Jagged Edge. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, well, who is with Jagged Edge? Like, who else was supposed to be over there? Like, I don't know. That just seemed very interesting to me that's blurred. But let me tell you about the Adam Blackstone Jagged Edge thing. They did this with Fantasia last year through his picnic. I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to sound like a Philadelphia. I'm not going to hold you. But like, it is, I mean, I guess it's rubbed off on me in some ways. But I'm not going to hold you. The Fantasia performed like 2.5 songs. It was like When I See You, which was her classic, and another song. And then that was about it. Like that Adam Blackstone thing is really more Adam Blackstone than the artist. So like, don't get super excited about Jagged Edge. They might perform Cupid, or they might perform, yeah, that's probably about it they're going to perform. Maybe that and another song, but I can't see them doing Promise too. That would be nice though. Music Soul Child is celebrating 25 years of I Just Want to Sing, which, 25 years? Oh my goodness, we're getting old. And then The Roots is celebrating 30 years of Do You Want More? Yeah, I don't remember that. Other artists, Funk Flex, Diamond Cuts, Snack Time, Raheem Devon is with, I guess, Active with Chill Vibes. Yeah, it's a bunch of World Series of Spades. Is there going to be a spades tournament? Kirk Franklin Sunday School is also performing. So there's going to be some interesting people performing. So we'll see. But the lineup is okay. I will give the lineup a 6.5 out of 10. Last year's lineup, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. The year before that, I would give that lineup a 9. Like taking Diddy out for Usher, nothing beats that baby. I'm sorry. That was the one. I would give that lineup a 9. I might be generous with last year's lineup. I'm going to say you got Nas, okay, like you got some big players. 8 out of 10. This one just gives me like a 7 out of 10. And maybe because I'm a millennial, so maybe if I was like a Gen Xer, I feel like it's like a Gen Xer lineup, slightly. But it's giving more Gen Xer and like older millennial, like Zennial energy. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's my take on this lineup. I'm still going though, and if I get some VIP tickets, I'll be there. I'm not going to say I'm not going to go, but I really want to see Glorilla and I really want to see Lotto for sure. Those are like the two I definitely want to see. Definitely want to see Lotto and definitely want to see Glorilla. And Kate Renata, I might go see him if I can as well. Lenny Kravitz maybe, like if I depend on the nights and the schedule. But those are for sure my definite goals to go see. And Jeezy, because I love me some Jeezy. I would love to go see Jeezy. Jeezy gets it in, okay? And he's no longer young Jeezy. He's just Jeezy. Because if he played one of my songs, Put On For My City, which I know he's going to perform. If he plays Super Freak too, oh my goodness. I will lose it. Like Jeezy is a Libra. Like I love a Libra. Like he's a Libra too. Like, yeah. Moving on. Let me just talk about this a little bit. There was some site that was on Twitter that was sponsoring a video that went viral talking about Beyonce is old and overrated. And the group that sponsored that video that went viral that made, I think it's called MF Eater or Mefer or whatever, that is like the ones that's the account on Twitter that shared that video, went viral. They released an apology apologizing for the content of this. It was a hairstyling thing where they were asking when who was getting their hair done, who they thought was overrated. And they basically was talking about Beyonce. Well, who sponsored that was Miel Organics. Yes, Miel Organics sponsored this because I think they're intimidated by the Sacred competition. And that Sacred is going to Ulta very soon in the spring. And so I wonder if they were throwing shots at Beyonce and being passive aggressive because they sponsored that clip. And I was like, why would you sponsor a clip as a black-owned beauty hair product company? Why would you sponsor a clip bashing another black woman's hair product salon? Like, that just felt like fucked up to me. So just want y'all to know that Miele Organic sponsored that video clip, and they're very dirty. And this should make you even actually be more bias cred, because it's a year of it. It's a 1 year anniversary. So just want to put that. But it seems like everybody's saying Beyonce, because there's a rumor, right, that everybody's been spreading about Beyonce getting sued. Like, Beyonce Jay-Z is suing Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. That's a lie, not true. That little clip you're seeing is from a website that makes a bunch of bogus legal claims and cases just to start shit. They got the 3 Little Pigs going against the Big Bad Wolf in a lawsuit. Like, it's a parody site. But y'all been spreading this on the internet like it's true. Can y'all stop? If you just don't like successful black people, just say that. I just feel like it's always bullshit. And people just run with it. It's like, you all are so upset. Just say you don't like them and your confirmation bias is kicking you in the ass. Like, stop it. Okay? Just stop. Like, get facts, people. Anyway. So A$AP Rocky was found not guilty in the attempt to shoot his friend. He was so excited that he leaped over and showed his significant other, Rihanna, love. So that's good. That is good. Rihanna is claiming once again, it's getting rough as a listen, she's claiming new music is coming, that it's going to be genreless, that you can't be able to play on radio. Girl, whatever. I'm just over it. Raise your hand if you believe that Rihanna is more close to having another baby before dropping another album. Raise your hand. All hands should be raised up. You hear that? You hear me the twist of my Tiffany bracelets on my breast? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Raise your hand if you can while listening to my podcast. Okay? All the hands are up. All the thousands of hands of you listening, your hands are up because you all know it's bullshit. Okay? I'm just over it. Now, I will say, look at me giving her an ounce of hope. I have heard that she might be potentially headlining Glastonbury, okay? That she is doing some pushes, that she's doing more interviews, she's talking about the album more, she's doing a lot of commercials, like she done something with Dior, Jadim by Dior. Like, she's doing a lot of public-facing stuff, so it's giving me like, are you trying to get back in the music thing? You're talking about the music more. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust her. Because I'm still waiting for Cardi B's album. And I don't know where the fuck that album is, too. So I'm just kind of you know what? I'm good at predicting some things. But clearly that ain't one of them, right? So I'm just going to let that be. Now, TV. Paradise is very intense. It's only been 8 seasons. It's like only 8 episodes because Hulu gives us the preview. This was like a little pilot season, but they already done approved season 2 to be made. So we're going to get more Sterling K. Brown, more great TV, more intensity. It's a lot going on. Y'all thought 24 was intense. Paradise is giving me craziness. The White Lotus is back. I'm going to just let this show kind of just give more episodes before I watch it. I just don't feel like I have the... It's not that it's bad. It's just that the first episode was a slow burner, and I'm making too much news my damn self to even be able to give so many TV shows my attention. So I'm just gonna wait for that season to conclude, and I'm gonna watch it in totality. But Paradise, it's a lot, right? And then what I really want to talk about real quick is Ray J. It just hit me that Ray J might be one of the most iconic reality TV shows, but he's also a reality TV menace. This man has been on reality TV for more than a decade. This man has never stopped being famous since that whole Kim Kardashian video. But to be honest, he's always been famous. I mean, he was Dorian on Moesha. I mean, he's been famous his entire life for the most part. I mean, this is a guy who's a real true kid star, right? But what I will say is that he definitely has established his own reputation, his own identity outside of Brandy. Like, he's not Brandy's little brother. Like, this man is his own image. And anything, he's more high profile at this point than Brandy is. Not to say that he's as accomplished. Let's be clear. He's more visible than Brandy right now, but he's not as accomplished as Brandy. Like, Brandy's a Grammy Award winning artist. Grammy Award winning. She's iconic in her own way. I mean, she's like, I'm not trying to compare the siblings, but I'm just saying that some people have went to go off so much to say, well, Ray J's a business, he's this, he is that. But Ray J's whole presentation, his own character, it's embarrassing. And I think Brandy and his relationship, I sense is a little rocky. Now, Brandy has a new book coming out, an autobiography about her life that's coming out later this year. I wonder how far she's going to go into her life because, baby, I keep hearing about all these men she done dated in the industry, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just curious to know about her love life, and all the these relationship situations. Is she going to talk about Wanzel or whatever his name, Wanzel or whatever? Is she going to talk about that relationship with him and Wanye? Is she going to talk about Wanye? Is she going to talk about Adina Howard? Is she going to talk about Mace? Because apparently she was with Mace, and then Shine. Apparently Shine was claiming there was some conversation about like she was with Mace and Shine, and Mace had some beef over her. Like, baby girl had lived a career. And if I was Brandy, I would have did it too. I would have dated all the dudes I could have dated. I mean, if you're the hottest girl, because if she was a man, we wouldn't be saying this, right? If she was the hottest man in the industry, she would have had her pick. So why do y'all expect these women not to? I mean, they have hormones and interests too. If I was Brandy and I was the hottest girl in the late 90s, baby, I was in my full moon era, I too would have been trying to, figure out who I like or who I don't like or whatever, because the men were different. Y'all be talking about, oh, the 90s girls, they were all natural, they were all this. And so were the men. Because some of y'all got some BBLs too. Some fake abs and some fake things on your face and other shit. Listen, the 90s men look different too. Like I always tell my husband, I'm like, you are 90s fine. Like, he's 90s fine. He does not look like a 2000s guy. His whole swag, his reservedness. Like, if you see Mr. Johnson in a turtleneck, you will think it was 96 on a cold winter. Okay? Like, he's just yes. But, it's just different. It's just, I don't know. I'm not really feeling these new looking dudes. Like, these new looking dudes just don't do it for me. Like, where are the Morris Chestnut? Like, I just need, some cleanliness, these guys are just, I don't know. I just see these dudes and people be like, oh, you don't ever get to no, I really don't. There's a couple cute people you just look at, they keep us like, I don't know. I just feel like I feel bad out here for my single friends. It is bad out here. These dudes. And listen, I'm doing the best I can to raise two younger brothers. Okay? That were 2000 babies. Both of my two youngest brothers were born in 2000s. One is in 2003, the other was in 2010. I'm trying to raise them up, as the big brother, to be 90s men like I am. I was a 90s baby, okay? I'm trying to raise them up to be like that, okay? Like to have the kind of swagger and mild manneredness as a Morris Chestnut, a Mackay Pfeiffer, Epps. I'm just trying to make them, not so much Terrence Howard, but, I'm just, like, I'm just trying to get them to be, decent men, Alan Payne type of decent man. You know what I'm saying? Like, just different. So, yeah, Ray J is not that. No shade. But Brandy, I wonder if she's going to talk about her relationship with Ray J in the book. I just wonder if she's going to really be very, very vulnerable. Like, are we going to get another, Britney Spears type of book? Like The Woman in Me type of energy. Like, Britney left no crumbs. That is one of the best pop culture autobiographical books I've ever read. Period. Like, she let it out in that book. I just wonder if Brandy's going to do the same, because she really should. Because when you think about the 90 pop princesses, Brandy was that black pop princess that we had. Like, she was our Britney before, the other girls came in. So I just wonder if we're going to get the vulnerability, because it'll be nice. And then, yeah, lastly, as you can imagine, this week is going to be a big deal. This is my last week teaching before my students are off for spring break. So this week we're going to finish strong with my students, and then we're going to hit the ground running. I know that they're going to see me in classes. We can be like, Mr. Owens, Professor Owens, you just out here. I saw you in my timeline. I just love my students. But this is their week, and then we're going to have spring break. And I forgot how nice it is to be a professor, because you get to have a spring break off or whatever. But y'all know I had spring break off or whatever. Maybe I can find me a trip somewhere, like a cute little staycation somewhere. I got to find somewhere to go. Where should I go? What could I do? I don't know. Like, I mean, I can't do Atlantic City, because y'all know that I love to escape to Atlantic City. I don't know. DC, I don't know. Trumpville over there. New York, what's in New York? I got to find something to do in New York. I got to find something. Maybe we'll find out where I land. But whatever I do, I will let you all know in next week's episode of Ernestly Speaking. So, as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens.
Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.